It was great. Now I introduce you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the Planning Board meeting, June 6, 2023. My name is Kathy Barnard, and I'm now going to introduce the other members of the Planning Board. Down at my extreme left is Steve Webster, who is an alternate. Sitting next to Steve, Yvonne Dugan, and Roger Murray, Peter Goodwin, and Doug Braskin, who is the vice chairman. On my right is John Thurston. Jane Nielsen is next to him, and Brad Harriman. And Jane is an alternate, and Brad is a representative from the Board of Selectmen, and then Julie Jacobs, who is also an alternate. Okay, the first item, I hope you've all seen the corrected and amended agenda. If not, I think we probably have some copies here. But anyway, it was, we left off the boundary line adjustment for hunters, and so that's been added to the agenda. Okay, we have several public hearings, and let me just quickly go through the procedure. I'll read the item into the record, then the applicant will make a presentation as to how it meets the zoning regulations and how it and what the purpose of the application is. During that time, planning board members can ask questions. Then when he's finished, I'll see if Tavis has any additional comments. If there's some sort of a waiver that's needed, we will deal with that, and the applicant will have to justify why we should grant the waiver. Then we'll vote on whether we accept the waivers or not. If we do accept them, then we will go on and say that the application is complete, and then I can open the public hearing, and if anyone wants to speak to the issue, that would be the time for you to do that. Okay, the first item on the agenda, Robert Beckwith, 16 Libby Street, tax map and lot 217-13, case 20023-06. This is a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit, or an ADU. And it's, where is the applicant? Yeah, hi. Just a few things, if you could go over the size of the unit. We need to know that whoever owns the property is going to live on the property, so you need to make that statement. You need to talk about parking spaces, whether you'll have an extra one, and that's pretty much it. So if you'll go ahead and then.
Well, I have a 14-foot right-of-way off Main Street to the church parking lot that allows me to park in the rear part of my property. So I'll have a parking space there. Then I have 2 spots in my driveway itself.
Okay, and Tavis is going to show us a site plan. Is that? Yep. Okay, all right, go ahead. Why don't you?
Could you lift the microphone up a little bit? Thank you.
How's that? So I guess I'm building a 36 by 24 garage with a 2-bedroom apartment above. Entrance into the apartment is going to be in the rear, where the right-of-way is from the church parking lot from Main Street. And then the entrance to the garage is through my driveway off of Libby Street. And there's no entrance to the house from to the apartment. It's separate, but they're attached. The buildings are attached.
Okay, but there does have to be a doorway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has a doorway and a deck going out to the driveway out back.
Where's the doorway going into the main house?
The main house is on Libby Street, but behind the house in the church parking lot. You come through the church parking lot to enter into the apartment above the garage.
No, I think Kathy's reference was you made a mention just a moment ago that there's no passage from the ADU into the house. Is that correct?
No, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, well, then you really do not qualify for an ADU.
I don't understand.
Isn't that one of the questions that he had to, well,
No.
Yeah, I don't believe the application is complete because I don't think we have enough information upon which to make a decision. This is by conditional use permit, and under the conditional use permit, we have to, among other things, find the site suitability, that the specific site isn't appropriate for the proposed ADU, and this includes adequate usable space, adequate access, absence of environmental constraints, immediate neighborhood impact, that the proposal meets the aesthetic continuity for the primary dwelling as a single-family dwelling. The ADU entry door is not visible to the public way, and I think we may have that. There will be no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. We have nothing that shows off-street parking and nothing that shows the right-of-way from Main Street. And while this may well conform, with the exception of the interior door, we have no way of knowing that.
I'm not understanding what you're saying. I mean, I met all the criteria.
I just read the conditions for a conditional use permit.
I have
This
that.
is permitted, it's under section 175, 215 of the zoning ordinance, and this, an ADU is permitted by conditional use permit.
Yeah.
So you need to satisfy those conditions.
And
And you don't have anything that shows that you do that. Now, you may well do that.
Is 175.57, is that the condition, is those the conditions?
Those are those are the conditions for an ADU.
Right.
But you also need a conditional use permit, and those are the conditions that I just read. And you may meet them, it's just we have no way of establishing that.
I'm not sure. I don't understand what, I guess I didn't read that. Can I have a copy of that?
well, no, that's okay. You can get it at the
We can provide you
at
one.
office,
This is
at
the
the
only copy
office
I
or
have.
online.
Well, I guess I assumed that all I had to do was meet the 175.57 accessory dwelling unit conditions, which I have.
No,
So
well, you really haven't because it's not connected by a doorway to the main dwelling.
Well, the main, not the downstairs, but the garage is. The garage is connected.
Is the
It
garage-
is connected to the main dwelling. It's literally attached to the house, and not only that, it's got a doorway and a mudroom going into the garage. It's on the floor plans.
The ADU needs to be connected to the main dwelling unit by interior door and a
Yes,
common
it
wall.
is.
Is there?
Yes.
I could not find it on the plans, but,
Yes, you can
Yes,
walk
it
from
is.
the existing house into the new garage through a door.
okay, and the garage is part of the ADU.
Okay. ADU is
well, it
upstairs in the
wasn't
garage.
that easy to read. So that's, okay, so you're saying that there's
a door going from the house into the garage, into the building.
okay, and water.
From outside.
Okay, no, just a sec, okay. And there's water and sewer?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other, go ahead, Peter.
I'm looking at the total area of accessory dwelling unit square feet, and it comes out to be, I don't understand what the numbers mean, because it looks like it's 726% of habitable area occupied by ADU. And that doesn't make any sense, because I don't think it is.
The upstairs of the garage is less than 30% of the total square footage of the house.
But what I see on my application is 726%. But it may be that the 7 shouldn't be there, and it really is only 26%. So I need to at least think about whether that's a misprint or what the deal is.
Yeah, I see what you're looking at. It was originally the square footage, and that was written over as 26%.
But we should know the area of the dwelling and the area of the ADU to address that point. If we're going with the 30%,
It's under both. It's under the 750 and the 30%.
well, how big is it?
I would have to go back and run the numbers again.
We really should have that.
Okay,
Well, the application form requires a percentage to be added, and it's 26%. It doesn't require total.
Okay, I will require it, though.
So as long as we could note that that is not, it looks like 726, but it's 26 written over 7, something else, we could just make a note. It's 26%. So that clarifies that. The door to the dwelling unit, though, doesn't access the unit. So that might be a sticking point.
That's not a requirement in our
It
ordinance.
just has to be attached by
Has
a
to-
door.
It's all one structure. In fact, everything that's proposed to be in the ADU would be allowed. The only thing making it an ADU is being a separate family, to which he provided an exterior door to the accessory dwelling unit.
With a deck or stairs.
Well, this requires that the ADU be connected to the main dwelling unit by an interior wall, door, and a common wall.
Which it has to
It
the
has.
Which it
garage
does.
on the ground floor.
But the garage is not part of the ADU.
Correct. It's all one structure.
No, you've got an ADU and you've got a main dwelling. They
And
are,
it's-
they are together.
Yes.
But they're not the same dwelling.
Yes, they're together. Sorry.
Yes. But they are
It
two
doesn't-
separate.
The ordinance doesn't say you have to walk from one living room to another through a door. You don't have to walk directly from one living unit to another unit through a door. In fact, the ordinance suggests the opposite of that.
Well, I disagree. It says the ADU shall be connected to the main dwelling unit by interior door and a common wall. And that tells
And
me
they are.
they're connected.
They are connected with
They
a
are.
door and a wall.
As long as we're calling the whole structure the ADU.
Right.
Other questions?
This is very similar to many that have gone through this board.
Any other questions from planning board members?
The parking spaces are not clear, so could you describe how the parking works? Did you add a parking space somewhere?
To the rear,
I did in the back,
the yellow one.
yeah.
So it's not clear what this means, but the two blue triangles are existing and the yellow triangle is new. Did you- oh,
The
you
two
didn't
blue
get
ones are
this.
the ones in the driveway.
Yeah.
And then the one in the rear of is coming through the parking lot of the church.
Yep.
And if you look at the church parking lot, there's an area designated as no parking that provides the right-of-way.
I don't understand this.
And if you want the deed, there's a reference toward the bottom of the page that talks about the
I
right-of-way.
really don't understand the plan either, and neither does John,
No,
which
it's-
makes me feel better.
It's hard to follow, for sure. I mean, seriously, you can hardly read it, to tell you the truth. I mean, we get through this, again, time after time, so I have to bring my magnifying glass here so I can read this stuff. So I don't really understand why they're coming through the parking lot of the church, and you
It's a
didn't give us...
right-of-way, sir. I have a right-of-way through the
Did you give
church
us
parking,
some-
14
some-
feet
some-
from
did you
Main
gi-
Street to the building,
Did you-
to my property.
I didn't see any legal write-up
Yeah,
on that.
It's in my deed.
So we have a
Didn't-
copy tonight.
I
It would
thought
be
we had a
great
copy
if
of the
we had a
deed.
copy beforehand.
Okay, well, usually we see it in a site plan so that we can all looking at the same thing.
I'm not seeing it.
I thought I put a copy of the site plan there.
Okay, any other questions? Okay,
Yeah,
somebody
I
want
mean, we're supposed to be looking at the adequate access for, look at, there is an undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic. And, I mean, this explanation helps some, but I don't see how we really have enough information. based on this. I mean, if there's a right-of-way through the church parking lot on this, I can't find
The
it.
church park.
It's
And
not,
we need something.
it's not drawn.
It's not shown.
Okay, we need something that shows I mean, I'm not suggesting that you don't comply. I just am having trouble making sure you do.
I have documents from my attorney about the right-of-way. I just didn't bring them. I didn't think I needed them, to be honest with you. I got plenty of parking.
I mean, I don't need a deed, well, necessarily, but I need to, the plan needs to show the right-of-way so that somebody looking at, without you explaining it, understands what's in front of them.
I'm not sure if I have it here or not.
Roger?
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to accept, I think the application is complete except for the site plan, which we have a copy of. Can we go ahead and open the public hearing so that any member of the public that wants to speak can speak?
I don't see how we can accept the application as complete if we say either we need a site plan or we don't have a site plan and we
Okay, I was
understand.
just suggesting it so if any member of the public wants to speak that they could, that was all. But, I mean, we do have somewhat of a site plan. but
I
if-
think it wouldn't hurt if we let any member of the public speak. Some of these people might have come for this application.
Right.
They might not need to come again if we've heard them, so why don't we just listen?
Yeah, I have no problem with that at all. I think if they took the time to come, they should have the
Can we open
opportunity
the public hearing
to
before it's
speak.
complete?
No, we really can't, but what we were given as a site plan was what Tavis passed out. It's not a very good site plan, I will admit, but it is a site plan. And I was just trying to give people an opportunity to speak so that we could then deliberate.
We can still continue.
Yeah, right, yes, okay. But if nobody is willing to make a motion to accept it as complete, well, I'll make that motion to accept the application as complete based on the information that we've received.
So what's the discussion?
Well, I
Need a
just
second
need a
first.
second, or else we don't open the public hearing. Okay, no second.
I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor of accepting this?
Now we're going to have discussion.
Okay, all right.
So what's Roger's point about not accepting the application as complete? Go through that again, Roger. Why do you think the application is not complete?
Because we don't have the information necessary. We don't have something that clearly shows parking spaces. We don't have the right-of-way. We don't really show the access onto Libby Street. And I don't think we have the information required in order to adequately address the requirements for a conditional use permit. I think that if we wanted to make this for discussion purposes, with the understanding that there is additional information necessary, then I'm fine with that. And I'd also, if we're going to open it to public discussion, let anybody who's here for this look at least see what this thing shows so they can comment on it.
Any other comments? Okay, motion has been made and seconded to open the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then, if you want to take a seat, then I'll open the public hearing. Any member that wants to speak to this issue, please come on up and give us your name.
Good evening, everybody. Derek Brown, 30 Libby Street. We're at the bottom of the hill, the last lot before the construction company next to us. To this point, Christian Church almost 30 years ago redid their parking lot and created a significant watershed that we are the recipient of as the lowest part of that entire street, which has created a major water problem in our backyard. My only concern with this project is the current back entrance that's being proposed that is roughly built already continues to shed even more water versus help absorb some of what is coming down that hill. So whatever surface gets put on that lot, I'd like to see that it is somewhat absorbent to rain versus another asphalt surface to further shed more water, to help relieve some of the water that's coming down that hill as a result of the church and the neglect of the church parking lot and its grounds. That's my only concern.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Audrey Klein. I am here reading a letter from an abutter. If I could pass out the documents so you can follow along. My name is Audrey Klein. I'm here to read a letter from an abutter, and I have documents to pass out. Still couldn't hear me? Is the mic on? It is.
Audrey.
Thank you.
So this letter was written after reviewing the application on 5/31. So if there's new documents that came in after this was noticed, this letter does not reference anything that might have been submitted after that. I'm just going to read through it. There's a lot of points that have already been brought up, but I would like to read the whole letter as Roger Kent has asked me to. Roger Kent is at 61 North Main Street and has his property is across Libby Street from the Beckwiths. He's writing to, I'm going to do it in first person. I'm writing to raise my concerns as an abutter to the application for the accessory dwelling unit at 16 Libby Street, conditional use permit submitted by Robert Beckwith. Although I'm not opposed to accessory dwelling units, I am concerned that this application does not show compliance with the conditional use requirements. Because the parcel and primary residence may be altered, added to, or otherwise developed over time, it is important that complete documentation is filed with the approval or denial, not only in the building permit file, but in the conditional use approval. From somebody who looks at 10 and 15-year-old files, it's really important that that information be included in the file with the approval. As of 5/31, the building permit for the attached garage had not yet been approved. I don't know if that's changed, but as of last week, it had not. Due to the extreme limitations of the site, approval of the building permit must precede the approval of the ADU.
Are you saying that the building permit hadn't been issued for what's being constructed? Is that what you're saying?
It has not been issued for what's been constructed.
Okay.
As of 5/31. It's a very, very tight lot. I don't know if anybody drove by it, but it's very tight. Under 175-129, the building permit may not be issued until no building permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued for the erection of a new building, the enlargement or increasement of floor area of an existing building, the development of a use not located in the building, or a change from one type of use to another unless off-street parking spaces or loading bays are provided in accordance with this article. So the board has already touched on the lack of information of those parking spots. technically those need to be identified prior to the building permit. No site plan has been submitted documenting the proposed parking, which is conditional use C off-street parking and 175, 157, 1E4 dedicated off-street parking shall be provided for the ADU. Historically, and this is Roger speaking, historically I have given 16 Libby Street permission to park on Libby Street in front of my 3 garage doors. This permission is revocable at any time as I will be using the garage doors regularly in the future. Should the proposal include required parking from the rear of the parcel through the 2 church lots, I request a registered deeded easement to be a condition of the ADU approval and included in the file. This is in the event that this property gets sold in the future. People need to know that there's a legal easement for that parking. 175, 157.1E2, the ADU shall be connected to the main dwelling unit by an interior door in a common wall. I think the discussion the board has had right now leaves a lot of room open for an appeal based on the reading of what an interior door is supposed to be. An interior door in a common wall, if we're going to count the one that's in the garage, would then have to include all the square footage in the garage, and then do you count that in the 30% of the ADU? And is it heated space? Is it an interior door? Is a garage interior? I think these are all good questions. So the building plans do not show a connection to the main dwelling by an interior door in the common well. They don't show a staircase from the ADU down to the garage. Now, there might be one, but that's not what I saw. Ordinance 175.57.1E3, the area of the ADU shall not exceed 30% of the total habitable area of the single-family dwelling or 750 square feet, whichever is larger. The application and the building plans do not show any calculations to verify this requirement, and that calculation should be in the approval in the planning board file, not just in the building board, in the building file, in my opinion. So Roger requests that this correspondence be made part of the project file and asked me to read this to the board. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you. Anybody? Oh, okay, yeah, thanks. Anyone else want to speak to this issue? Okay, board members, Audrey has brought up several issues. Roger's brought up something that he feels the application is not complete. So how would you like to proceed?
I have a question for the planner. Tavis, can you confirm that an ADU is intended to be connected to the main dwelling by conditioned space?
That's not how it's been interpreted by this board before, no.
Very good, thank you.
As long as the ADU is a portion of the original building, which this was. So remember, this started as a house.
Yes.
So when you look at the site plan, there is a house in one color, if you will, with 2 triangles next to it. Then the crosshatch garage with storage above was constructed as an addition to the home. There was a building permit for the garage with storage space above. And there is nothing preventing the addition of, I'm not sure where the comment of no building permit was issued because everything that's there has a building permit. So the proposal was then, following the failure at town meeting for the ADU to become an over-the-counter permit.
We don't need to talk about that. We're just talking about the existing ordinance.
That's why it was storage above, is the point, and I believe it is relevant to mention. Failing that, they applied for a conditional use permit where you can leave the structure and enter the ADU. It is all one structure, and as the ADU regulation suggests, it is an exterior door not visible from the regular public way that provides access to the ADU. It is all one structure. It is 2 separate living spaces as designed. If the board has question on that, I think the board needs to work on that language about the interior door and common space. Because this board has issued several approvals for multiple ADUs where you do not go from conditioned space to conditioned space.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Is it true that the building permit for the attached ADU structures has not yet been approved?
There is no approval for the ADU to be constructed. But remember, this is frankly semantics at this point. The structure itself has been approved. So it is finished space. It just doesn't have approval to be used as an ADU.
So
Okay.
it's currently garage and storage and
Correct.
permitted.
Correct.
So I would say in trying to parse this out, it says the ADU shall be connected to the main dwelling unit by an interior door and a common wall. And I understand that there is a door from the main house into the newly constructed garage on the ground floor. But that enters into the garage, not into the ADU, which I assume is on the second floor.
Correct.
So we're not considering the ground floor as part of the ADU.
Correct.
So I would say then there is not a direct door between the ADU and the house.
Correct.
Okay, then, if that's the case, then
One more
this
question.
this does not qualify.
But if the staircase was put on the inside of the garage, would that make it so?
Yep.
Well, that would have a path inside, but if the door is from the main house into the garage, then you would need to consider the square footage of the garage as part of the ADU, which would make it more than 30% of the main house.
But we have passed the before that way, considering that the whole thing was part and parcel, because you can walk from one to the next to the next to the next.
If that's the requirement of the board or the board's reading of the ordinance, then at least the area of the staircase would need to be considered as part. Since we're still well shy of the 30%, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
But we
And the
haven't seen-
ordinance clearly states that it's habitable floor area. So garages, I would not ever count in habitable.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, John.
I think we're talking about the right thing with Doug here. The door goes into the garage, so the garage is like a breezeway into the house, and then the pictures that I'm seeing all show the stairs outside the building going up the side of the building. So that's how I'm seeing how you're going to access the ADU. You're not accessing the ADU in my mind, or from what I'm being shown, through the inside of the garage, through an interior door that accesses the ADU. It's accessing through the outside door.
Right. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, John, I'll do a little mental gymnastics, and I'm not sure how it's going to work out. But if you consider the whole new structure as the ADU, and as Vaughn just pointed out, the lower section is not habitable space, but you are accessing the structure itself through that door.
Is there access to the second floor of the garage from inside the garage?
I don't believe so, no.
Then it doesn't work.
Okay, why don't you come on up. Okay, yep.
I can certainly put a door in. I just chose not to, because it's my bedroom to the ADU. So I chose not to do that because I wanted privacy. But I can certainly put a doorway in so that we can access that from the main house as well as the garage below from the main house. So there'll be two doors accessing the unit, the building. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather, because the whole building is the ADU, and I thought that by me accessing through the garage, that was the doorway to the building, and then the wall is, the wall is 2 floors. It's the garage and the second floor.
Right.
But you do access through an exterior door outside.
Yes, there's an exterior door for the ADU right now, but I can put a door going from the main house to the ADU if that's something that you require.
Well, the
But
requirement is through an interior door and a solid wall.
Right, but the whole building is the ADU.
Well, there's frankly lots of things to consider. It would be up to the applicant at this point to decide putting in the additional door, putting an interior stair in the garage, or simply working with the building inspector on fire separation and calling it a duplex and not being an ADU.
Or it's not clear in our language, and we should work that out in the future, because, I don't know, it says it's connected to the main dwelling unit by an interior door. Well, there's a door. So,
And I think that's right from the state statute, I think.
Well, you can require a door, you cannot require it to be locked. That's the statute.
but it could be locked.
But it could
Yeah,
be locked.
right.
And obviously, if,
But if,
current reading of the regulation aside, what was just demonstrated suggests to me perhaps there's a problem in the regulation, where part of the regulation says we're encouraging the ADU to be separate and distinct from yet part of the same structure, having a separate door, et cetera, that's not visible, but yet please put a door in your bedroom so that we can satisfy the regulation.
and it really doesn't say here specifically that it needs to be from one heated space to another heated space. It's not in here. And I'm not sure why we would require that, but I don't think it says that.
So
Okay,
my
so-
understanding was that when we created the accessory dwelling unit, it was for an in-law or an older family member or something, somebody that you could check on and go through. I mean,
Well, in-law and extended family is not a separate family, so technically it's not an accessory dwelling unit.
well, I'm just telling you what we were discussing when we were thinking
No,
about the
I
ordinance.
understand, and there's a lot of confusing language out there about in-laws being ADUs.
Okay, did you finish your thought? Okay. Okay, did you want to say anything else then?
No, I'll just do whatever, needs to be done to take care of this.
Okay,
It
because
seems-
we don't have any information about the easement that you have from the church.
I could have it here before adjournment. I live right down the street. I have documents from my lawyer. Bring it.
But we're not going to have a chance to read it,
Okay.
so,
Could we have that information as a condition of approval?
yes, we could.
It's right there.
Okay,
Do we have something that addresses proof of occupancy? Which it says that,
Do you live there? Do you live at 16 Libby?
Yes, I do.
Here we go.
can you give us a letter that says you
I
reside
can
there?
show you my license. You can
Just
come
leave
by
something to put
anytime.
in the file. Just something to put in the file that says,
That I live there?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a water bill, anything like that?
no, just a letter.
Just a letter. Oh, sure, yeah, I can do that.
With water.
And I think we need a better site plan that
Or-
shows the parking.
I mean, he did sign the application as the property owner.
So the only thing in my mind that is really a problem is potential additional drainage problems to the neighbors. And that probably could be addressed by a better site plan, a ditch or something to catch any runoff from whatever driveway is accessing that.
The driveway is pitched towards the church, and then it's going to channel down to my driveway.
But we don't
Oh, okay,
have
you
that.
need,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we only got the site plan with parking spaces just.
I'm not going to pave it anyways.
Yeah, but I think it should be addressed. I mean, your
Okay,
neighbors
yeah.
are concerned.
Okay, so an additional site plan?
It should have come with a site plan,
I thought there was one.
yeah.
I would actually suggest that if the garage, which has the same, footprint, was approved, and you put a second story on it, it does not change the footprint.
No, the site is
And so
entirely under the.
therefore, what I'm going to say is that doesn't change the amount of water runoff going in any direction.
The parking
The
does.
second floor is already there.
The parking spot might, if you're doing something to it. We don't know. We don't
I
have
really didn't change
information.
the parking. It was always there. It was always there. I parked my boat back there and stuff, so it's always been there.
Okay, you're talking about the parking space to the rear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I access that to park my snowmobiles, my boat, whatever at the time.
Okay,
Yeah, so I've always had parking back there.
okay, plus the two in the garage.
Excuse me?
Plus two parking spaces in the
In
garage.
front of the garage in the driveway, and the garage holds 3 cars, yes.
Okay. Okay, any other,
Yeah, I would like a calculation of the size of the ADU and the main dwelling.
Don't worry about it right now. We'll bring
Okay.
it, bring
I
it
do
back
have
when we
it.
come back.
I do have it.
Just so we have that for the file.
Okay.
The board want to continue this to a date specific?
I think I would, I
no, go
would,
ahead.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
would, I would.
Okay. All right.
I think the earliest possible date, I don't think it's a lot to do.
6/20 is next.
Yeah.
Okay, so could you get the information that we're requesting for first?
Next week.
So the deed, the parking.
Everything. I can get you
yeah.
everything. It's all at my house. It's at the house. Sorry, I didn't come as prepared as I should have.
And perhaps the topography somehow indicate.
I do have a
Yeah.
top out.
Yeah.
I have all of that.
Motion to continue to the next meeting?
To the work session or the next public hearing?
20.
2-0. Next meeting,
6/20.
6/20,
2 weeks.
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, we're going to continue this until the next meeting. You need to provide information about the access way. And, you know, as John pointed out, it would be good if it was made of a permeable surface. The doorway issue, is everyone comfortable with that?
I think those things will be discussed before, I think there'll be an answer for the
Okay,
board.
all right. Okay, and the owner has said that he will be occupying one of the units. We have the additional parking. The exterior alteration of the, is to the rear of the property. So if somebody wants to make a motion to continue this,
I did.
So moved.
okay.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to continue this application. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll see you at the next meeting, which was the
6/20.
June 20th.
6/20, 7 o'clock.
Excellent. Thank you very
Okay?
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, very good.
Okay.
Okay, next application, Wolfeboro Tennis Club, 22 Club Lane, tax map and lot 132-.6, case 2023-05. This is a site plan review for expansion of the covered pavilion and deck and a storage shed expansion. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is
okay,
Jim
if you
Kadersha.
can-
I'm
yeah,
representing
yeah.
the Wolfeboro Tennis Club.
Okay, you need to explain, justify why we should grant the waivers that you have requested. This was a special exception that was granted in 1980. And so you do meet most of the criteria, but you need to explain why you need all the variant, or the waivers that you have asked for.
Oh, well, in terms of, should I start with what we're trying to do?
Yep.
So what we're trying to do is two relatively small projects. One is at a 12 by 24 shed, simply for storage of things we already use on site, materials to maintain the courts. It's a clay called Hartrue, and instead of keeping this stuff outside, we would prefer to keep it inside.
Hold it closer.
closer. Oh, sorry. So the shed is for storage of currently used materials that we can better store if we have this shed. The second is a 20-foot extension on the pavilion. Now, I understand you may only have a small copy of the plan. I have a larger one here. So the shed would be right up here next to our pro shop for storage. And down here is our pavilion. And that pavilion is used for club functions, for meetings, maybe social gatherings. But we need a little more room. We're squashed in there.
Okay, do you mind turning that around so the audience can see the... Yeah.
Okay, so the...
Need the mic.
Where are we here? The shed is a... thank you. This is my helper, Larry. And
We need you to talk into the microphone while you're going through those gyrations.
We can do this. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
they heard your
see in the
explanation.
upper right is our pro shop, and the shed is the small 12 by 24 extension off of that. And as I mentioned, simply for storage of existing materials. And the pavilion, this structure, we're talking about lengthening by 20 feet just to better accommodate the current membership. We're getting a little too tight in there. And that's for meetings and the occasional social function. And that's really it.
Okay, all right. Thank you for doing that. Oh, okay, now if you would go through the waiver requests.
Okay.
Pull that mic into you.
Oh, Tavis to the rescue. Okay, so, through each one of these. Well, going down the list, the Disabilities Act, we believe, doesn't apply to a private club. All the work is happening within the boundaries of the club and not near any, any property lines that we have to worry about. There's nothing that would need to be changed in terms of street access. This is well within the land of the club. What else is there? The existing water, sewer, electrical, there's no needed changes for any of this. Let's see. We're not in a special flood zone. There's no bicycle facilities nearby that would be impacted. No lighting. That did come up, that question at the technical review meeting. There's no new lighting to this, so we won't be affecting, migratory bird patterns or whatnot. And there shouldn't be any issue with water runoff or erosion from this.
Okay, all right, go ahead, John.
So do you know that there'll be no water runoff or erosion for sure?
Well, I believe the surface area was small enough that that wasn't an issue.
Because I kind of have heard that there's a lot of water that comes down there from the courts and goes down to the lower properties. So I'm kind of just discussion from the years past. So I'm kind of hearing this addition, and are you making any mitigation areas for infiltration where the water will come off the roof and get in somewhere so it'll get into the subsurface?
Well, the issue of water for us was largely one of damaging the courts, and so actually, yeah, we have talked about doing some extra drainage just to make sure the courts don't get damaged from it.
So that's a no with mitigation around your patio, drip edge, infiltration trenches. That you haven't had that discussion or anything?
No, but I thought that waiver was based on if you had a certain amount of square feet, and we were below that number.
I'm not sure what you're asking the waiver for.
The project isn't large enough to trigger the stormwater regulations, is what he's saying.
Okay, well, Ed, I mean, John brings up a good point. What are you asking the waiver for if you're not,
That's right.
yeah, right. So maybe we don't need that one, right?
I don't think they need most of these waivers.
Yeah, right, well, that was sort of, yeah, that was my thought, too. I mean, they're not making any changes.
I mean, I think that they comply, and you don't need a waiver, and if we're basically being asked to waive all the requirements, and I think between the planning director's review and the information on the plan, a lot of these items have been addressed. In terms of, I'm not sure about the ADA compliance, but I do know I represented a homeowners association with the beach, and the ADA was quite sure that it had jurisdiction over allowing someone with a child onto the beach. So I'm not sure this doesn't apply, but I think it would be a question of whether you required certification from a architect, which is what the site review regulations require. On the 175-15E, I think we have a boundary survey. I don't think we can go in and say waive all of the requirements to show the property. I mean, right now, that's a little bit better. When I looked at the plan, I did get out my magnifying glass, but none of this is labeled. So it isn't even clear what you're doing, and if somebody came along after us, I don't think they'd have the faintest idea, assuming we approved it, what we approved. So I'm not in favor of waiving all those. I don't think we need, I think there are limitations on how much we need to require, but we need something that shows what you're doing. We should have elevations.
Right, but we do need the 175-15E.
Yeah.
We need that, and then we need the performance bond, because they're not going to be required, so.
Yeah, I mean,
But other than that, I don't think they need any of the other.
I mean, we don't need to waive the performance surety because that only applies to, what is it, landscaping, road construction, nothing that they're doing here.
Okay. Okay, then the rest of those I don't really think we need. So we would really just need 173-15E,
And I
1
think,
through 4.
I think we should note that it's not on town water and town sewer, but what's there certainly would not seem to need to be changed. But I don't think we want to, and we don't want to waive that we haven't looked at natural features or amenities on the property that will be impacted by the project. It would appear that you're not subject to the stormwater regulations. One of these plans says it's not in a special flood hazard area. I think if you are talking about exterior lighting, I would put it in now. If you're not going to do it, then you don't need it. But if you want it, okay. And so I don't think you need these waivers.
Just trying to be thorough.
Well, I mean, you were very thorough. I think you tried to waive virtually everything here.
Well, except for the boundary survey.
Yeah, that we do need.
All right.
And we need elevations. Or something that shows.
Let's see. Does this help?
Yes, that helps, but you need to label what's the pavilion and what's the
new.
Oh, yeah, it is. So,
and ultimately you're going to want a signature placed on the plan.
signature from the planner?
For the planning board to sign, I'm assuming.
Not necessarily.
We don't approve site review plans?
Sure you do.
Okay, you don't expect any,
We have more pictures.
oh, okay, good.
Good,
All
yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get any of this, so.
We did submit it, so somewhere it got lost in the shuffle, but that's why we have it.
That wasn't
Okay.
in the packet.
No,
Would be nice to see it.
no, all we
That's-
got was
that's
the
a-
plan with the microscopic.
Okay, that's a conversation for another day.
Can
That
you
should
bring
have
it
been
up in
the
front of
packet.
us, and at least so we can see what it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us the new part.
John, make sure you speak in the mic.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
okay, here, talking to my mic. Here you go.
Okay, so here is the extension, the 12 by 24 proposed extension. We have a pro shop, and then this would be storage. Actually, this would be the storage.
And is this the existing?
Let me see. This should be the existing.
Okay.
Well, I got the person who made the drawings. Get up there.
Make sure everybody says their name on record.
And if that's not enough,
We got more pictures.
Larry Klein. So this will give you a better scope.
You can take the mic off the,
Oh.
there, off there. Pull it out of the holder.
Okay.
State your name.
Larry Klein. Hopefully these perspectives and stuff will give you a better idea of the scope of the project and what it involves. This is the existing pavilion. It's color-coded right here. There's a 10-foot extension that's covered, then a 10-foot that's exposed, the open deck area there. This is an overview here of where the pavilion is and the extension, the 10 and 10 foot extension. Over here is the storage shed area that's being added to the existing pro shop and storage area there. That's color coded. The green is existing. The yellow, it shows that we're going to have a storage area in back there, and there's an office area over there. It's just, we're just shifting that out of a mouse infested area to a little bit of cleaner area there. This is again an overview, a floor overview right here to give you a better idea and a perspective as opposed to plan view. A framing plan, elevations.
Mr. Klein, you'd mentioned a 10-foot covered extension and a 10-foot open extension, is
Yes.
that right? Because the letter of intent mentioned 12 feet, so I just want to make sure we understand.
We're talking about two different things. The pro shop, there's a 12 by 24 extension onto the pro shop, which includes the storage area. The pavilion is a 10-foot covered roof area, an extension of what's already there, and then a 10-foot open deck area.
All right, so the letter of intent I have in my hand says there's a 12 by 24 storage shed, and then separately a 12 by 24 covered deck and 12 by 24 open deck on the pavilion.
That's what it is.
Well, so I'm asking, is it 12 by 12 and 12 or 10 and 10?
Oh. Yeah. It might be a typo. It should be 10 and 10 because the existing, that's just a typo. It's a 10 by 24 and 10 by 24, not a 12. It's a typo.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for catching that. Yeah. Because the existing structure is 10-foot sections, and so I just duplicated that for symmetry. So that's just a typo.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Thanks. That was very helpful.
Yes.
No, well, did you submit them into the?
Not these color pictures.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, I need to open up the, well, wait a minute, I need to accept this application as complete. After, first of all, I'd like to make a motion to grant the waiver we just talked about.
Well, let's,
Did we get,
first we do
are
to
we
accept.
granting it, or did we get the information?
Grant the waiver and then
Okay.
accept. What was that, Roger?
I was asking whether we were granting the waiver or whether we got the information.
Okay. What are you asking?
You still don't have a site plan that's surveyed, so that would be one. There were two that you were talking about that you didn't get more information on.
Okay. All right. Then we're granting a waiver for the site plan and the boundary line. Is that correct?
This plan here, doesn't that have the boundaries?
Yeah, yes, I know it doesn't. That's why we were, right.
I think the only thing we need is to label them.
Oh, okay.
I think Kathy's point is that, do we need the boundary line plan, given that all of the work proposed is well into the interior of the lot?
That is why we would be granting the waiver.
Correct.
So we would like to grant the waiver if it's not near any boundaries or setbacks, I would think.
But we have a plan that shows it's not near any boundaries, so why would we want to accept the plan instead of waiving it? I mean, it seems it is incumbent upon us to show that it isn't encroaching.
Okay, so you don't want us to grant the waiver? Is that what you're saying, Roger?
I'm saying I don't think it's necessary to
Yeah.
grant the waiver because we
Okay.
have something that shows the locations I'd like them labeled, but beyond that, if you're something that shows there's no encroachment, meets all the setbacks, and it's nowhere near the boundaries.
Would this help?
Yeah.
This has everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's what we submitted.
Yeah.
Pardon, that's what we submitted with the packet of information.
Right.
Tavis?
Yeah, here it is.
That's what we have here.
We have it. We have it. Yeah, thank you.
The regulations require that to be stamped by an engineer or a surveyor. That's
I
why
would
there's a
waive
waiver.
that.
Oh, the waiver so that we can accept one that's not stamped, is that right?
The whole list of waivers you're looking at, up until tonight, were the waivers typically reviewed by the board for applications that did not interior to a lot, and nothing was really changing but for what they were accepting. So we're kind of changing the course of planning board review tonight, so we'll follow as you proceed.
No, I don't think so. I think we're just discussing it.
Differently than before. That's my point.
I think we should simply grant the waiver because we don't have a
As
stamped
requested.
boundary.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Is that what you're saying, Vaughn, as requested?
Yes.
Okay, you want to make that motion?
I move that we grant the waiver to the boundary survey. I think somebody needs to verify somewhere that the ADA compliance is in hand or not needed.
It'll be addressed at the building permit.
Yeah, at building permit level. The rest of it doesn't seem like we need anything for.
Right.
But let's grant all those waivers if that's part of the process. That's so moved.
Okay, I'll second that.
I'm not in favor of granting all those waivers because I think we have established that those conditions have been met, except to the extent that it may require certification from an engineer.
Okay, we're talking about two waivers that they have already justified.
Which are,
The boundary line and what was it, the ADA?
I mean,
Address
we're gonna waive an ADA requirement?
It's not what you're saying.
No?
You're waiving the submitted statement of ADA compliance for site plan. It's not waiving ADA compliance.
Right.
So they still have to meet ADA requirements?
They just don't need to show proof of complying with it for a site plan review.
Fair enough.
Okay, all right. Okay, motion has been made and seconded, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, now that the waivers have been granted, I'll make a motion to accept this application as complete. Somebody wants to second
So
that?
moved.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded, and to accept the application as complete. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right, now let me, if there are any public here, we need to hear from them. Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
any member of the public that wanted to speak to this issue? Okay. Planning board members, do you have any other questions? Tavis, this does meet the coverage requirements, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And do you have any conditions that you think we should add to this?
I just have the recommended conditions that are shown in the review. One refers to the materials as submitted. That would include everything received this evening. Recommended condition number 2 as written does not apply.
Can't hear you.
Recommended condition 2 does not apply to this project. So it's 1, referring to the plan set. Number 3 is written, applicant responsible for payment of all recording fees. And number 4, which would be the new number 3, is that everything in the packet is binding.
I wonder if we couldn't replace 2 with just that they add the notation shed and pavilion on the plan. I see shed somewhere, but I don't see pavilion. Just replace number 2.
So
Just so
number
it's
2 would read plan, applicant to amend plan to detail shed and pavilion.
Excuse me, I didn't understand that.
Just note that it says.
You're going to write shed and pavilion on the plan.
I think it was labeled, but maybe you can't see it, but,
Satisfying the condition isn't difficult. We'll just.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, did you have anything else you wanted to add, applicants? Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so those are your conditions?
So what do you want to do about the building square footage size? You want to, is it the letter of intent being adjusted?
Okay, well, we could, you want to just
I
speak to
didn't,
that?
I didn't understand. What was the question?
So are you going to resubmit a new letter of intent for this?
The letter of intent says build a 12 by 24 storage shed addition and then add a 12 by 24 and a 12 by 24, which is 10 by 24.
That was
correct?
10 by 24
So
and 10
that's
by 24.
modified
You'd like
and then
that corrected?
File will show it.
Is the storage shed still 12 by 24?
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So you'd like that correction in a letter
yes.
of intent?
No, that's okay. We have
Very
it.
good.
We're going to note it here.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, then we have conditions, and if everybody's comfortable with that, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll make a motion to approve the pavilion and storage shed at 22 Club Lane with the following findings. This was a special exception granted in 1980. It meets the zoning standards for a 3-acre RR zone. It meets the coverage, setbacks. I don't think there'll be any noise after, 10 o'clock or 11 that we can, the noise ordinance? Yeah, okay. There's plenty of parking available. The lights will all meet dark skies. And the applicant has justified the waivers that we just granted, so that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, all right, off you go. Okay, the next application, Nick Lagunas, Carroll County Construction, and Sally Wickers Trust, 510 Pine Hill Road, tax map and lot 128-2, case 2023-07. This is a subdivision of 2 lots. One already exists, and then one is being taken out of the oversized lot. And Randy is here to make the presentation.
Good evening.
Okay, let's see, you're going to tell us about this particular request. Did you have any waivers?
Yes.
Okay.
We had waivers
and so you need to justify that.
Yeah, first, or you want me to tell what the proposal is?
Yeah, go ahead and
Okay.
tell us what the proposal is and then justify the waivers.
Okay, so very quickly, paraphrasing the narrative, again, Randy Tatro, Norway Plains for the applicant. The application is for a 2-lot subdivision, 2 acres out of 59. It's located on Pine Hill Road, 510 Pine Hill Road. It's in the general residential district and the rural residential district. The 2-acre lot is in the general residential district only. Again, it's 59 acres existing. There's a driveway to a developed site on the 59 acres. Up in this area where the existing house is. And the proposal is to subdivide the 2 acres down on 109A on Pine Hill Road. The waivers that we requested in the sections 174-7 D.4, D.5, and D.6. Those waivers are requested only for the remaining property, for full survey, site features, wetlands, slopes, and stuff, because it's already developed. There is existing boundary surveys of the whole perimeter of the rest of it, and they're fairly modern, and they're on file at the Registry of Deeds. So that is the justification for the waivers. The proposed lot has been approved by the state DES for subdivision approval because it's under 2 acres. I mean, it's under 5 acres. It is 2 acres. It meets the state requirements for soils, slopes. Wetlands have been delineated by wetland scientists, as shown. On the submitted plans, topography, wetlands, test bits, again, approved by DES. And it also meets the town regulations for soils and slopes. So it's 2 acres, 2-acre zoning, meets the requirements. It did require a NHDOT entrance permit from District 3, which we did receive and get granted. It's located in this general area shown on the plan. Again, this is a proposed 2-acre lot. Hasn't been cited to be built on yet, but that's the proposed areas. You know, potential well location, potential septic location. They could be altered a little bit if someone decided to build in a different place. Let's see, what else would there be? I think that's pretty much it. Kathy, do you want to talk more about the waivers?
No, I think you did a good job. I think. Okay, anybody have any questions?
Did you say you had state subdivision?
Yes, we have state subdivision approval. I got the number, but it's back in my phone, Roger, but the town has a copy of it.
Okay, the subdivision regulations say that the driveway has to be 600 feet from another driveway.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that myself. Obviously, this is under state jurisdiction for points of access. And as some of you know, that became state jurisdiction in July 1971. If you had over 500 feet of frontage, you got 3 points of access if you could show site distance. If you had under 500 feet, you only got 2. In this case, there's existing 2,000 feet of frontage. I noticed, I was a little confused by the regs because in this zone, if you had 200 foot of frontage minimum, you could have 3 lots and still not be able to separate your driveways by 600 feet. But, it does also give an out to the board that says any special circumstances, the board can modify that.
Okay, and
opinion.
and you have the state permit.
Yeah, and so I don't know how well you guys know the area, but there is steep slopes and wetlands all the way up along the rest of the frontage. So any other access point, she'd be allowed 3 by rule because she had over 500 feet. But any other access point, it looks fairly difficult given to be able to prove safe site distance on the steep slopes. I do have a plan that shows that, but I'd have to sift through here to get it. I think if you bear with me, I'll open it up. So my cover sheet didn't show, all the topography and everything because we asked for a waiver. We did get some to prove certain things. We just didn't get the whole 50 acres. So as you can see, if you look at this, I think everybody can see it. Not the crowd, but you guys can. You can see the remaining frontage and how steep the topography is along 109A. And again, that's one of the reasons for the spot being picked as where they wanted to cut a lot out, because it had better topography and it also could meet the rules for the state as far as an access point. So I just wanted to show the board that.
Okay, so the wetland are sort of on the one side, and since this is a new lot, you can't ask for any waivers.
Right, so I'm not going to ask, the lot was set up so we didn't have to impact any wetland buffers. Obviously, there's a wetland that runs along the side of the existing roadway, another reason for having a separate entrance. So in this particular case, we felt that was the best scenario, and it was also the scenario desired by the applicant.
Did you speak to your water issue? Are you using town water, or do you have to?
No, it'd be well, Kathy. There's no town water up that far.
Yeah, all right.
So we show a well as we well and septic, and that's what the state approved. Yeah.
Okay. Questions? Any questions? Okay. Then I would accept it seems that the waivers have been justified by the applicant. Somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, then, since we've granted the waivers, that means that the application also has all of the requirements. So if somebody wants to make a motion to accept this application as complete.
So moved.
Okay, and
Seconded.
motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, all right, and let's see, we'll now go to the public session. Okay, I'll open the public hearing if there's any member of the public that wanted to speak to this issue. Okay. Come on up and give us your name.
Dave Hersey, I'm a butter.
Okay.
Can I show you something on this thing here?
I'm sorry, could you grab the
Yeah,
microphone?
right.
Thank you.
When they were surveying this, they told me they were just surveying because there was an extra 30 acres added to this land. And I said, okay, that's fine. They wanted to log it, so I let them log up through. This area right here goes with my piece of land. I own the well rights on this whole piece of land right here that went with this property years and years ago. I've owned this property for 45 years. This is called the spring piece up here, and that all spring, it all runs right down where they want to put the houses, right in the middle of that field. And something needs to happen because I was originally told that they were putting houses up above me, but in the field, that's all wetland in there. I can't see why that they're going to try to do that. You know, I've been there for 45 years. I don't have neighbors, and I don't want neighbors. And that's, like I say, is pretty much wetlands in there. And I don't know why they're trying to squeeze it in there, but...
Okay, all right. Okay, anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I'd like to know what's going to happen now.
Okay, well, yeah, and we'll ask the applicant to answer your question, okay?
All right.
Okay, Randy, could you address his issue, please?
So, as you know, we had it mapped by a certified wetland scientist. The stamp is on the plan. There's a certification report that went to the planning department for that, as far as the wetlands are concerned. Mr. Hurst, they're right. They have a well easement that's noted in the 1946 deed for the property. They have the right to place a well and run lines to the property, which it appears that was done. As is shown on our plan, you know, so there's an existing well house, an existing well up here that we located. It's shown on a 1989 plan previous to ours. And, you know, I don't really want to get into private rights on this, but they're absolutely correct. In the 1946 deed, it says they have, together with a right to place a well and run lines to that property, which we show on our plan, and they exist. As far as the boundaries I'm certifying to, and I feel are correct. Again, they show on previous recorded surveys the exact same way. So I guess that's my best answer to those questions.
Okay.
Randy, there was some comment about that property, that whole property is wetland, but you don't seem to have that delineated as wetland?
No.
Is that correct?
So the plan as delineated by Dan Coons, wetland scientist, of that property is as shown. It went to the state. The state sent someone out there to look at it for subdivision approval. That was granted. A test fit was done at the front of the property to prove a 4K area, and that passed. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Peter.
Can you show Mr. Hershey where the wetland delineation is? Where the wetland setback?
I think that's minimum lot size, subdivision. Yeah.
It has been 45 years since I've owned this land, and it's done it before with my grandfather.
Not arguing.
It's going to change now just because you made it wrong.
Yeah.
So the scientists go and they delineate the wetlands, and that is based on soil science, is that correct? So what you're talking about is runoff and other stuff. It's not based on what the soil scientists what you're talking about is something different than the technical analysis that the scientist does that puts his stamp on it that supports our case so we can approve the application. So
Your wetlands mapping was just mainly on the proposed new lot, is that correct?
Yeah, probably a periphery of about 100 feet, Roger.
Yeah.
And again, steep slope, it's pan soil, so it definitely could be groundwater moving, but that doesn't make it jurisdictional, especially on that kind of slope.
Okay, so how should we deal with this issue, Tavis? Do we need any additional information?
That's really up to the board. I mean, you have some firsthand information that suggests that the proposed lot is in conflict with the well easement, but we don't have anything in writing or nothing's been submitted to you showing that. You have a submitted subdivision plan that shows the previously mapped and recorded well easement being outside the proposed lot. You have a plan submitted showing where the limits of wetlands are based on the boundary of the proposed lot and within the interior of the proposed lot, so it's up to the board. Without having something tangible to look at and say, here's where I have the right to put a well, which is different than the map, it's difficult for the board to act differently than what you've been provided by licensed professionals.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any issues with this?
I think in the audience.
Yeah. No, I see that. I was trying to find out from the planning board. Okay, go ahead. We're still in the public hearing.
When the original driveway went up for the house behind me, they had to go around my well to go above it.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that was wet when they surveyed that 45 years ago. So this is still going to be wetlands, whether, that's the reason the driveway went where it did. It went way up around the well because I own that well. And I own 800 feet up on there, so.
Okay, well, we don't really have anything other than what the surveyor has presented to us to really react to. That's part of the problem. And so, I mean, unless, but I don't think you've given us anything except your observations of the last 40 to 50 years for us to go on.
All right.
Okay, any other questions? Any other public ones? Okay. All right.
Well, can I ask a question? Can we give him a chance to bring something in that shows ownership of the well?
He already said he already got it. It's from 1946.
So we usually have easements for all kinds of things, and so it's like, so if it's not holding up the process of the application, I think it's something that he's going to have to prove later on. I mean.
Yeah, I think that they have met all of the requirements of subdivision regulations, it seems, so. Tavis, do you have any?
So can Mr. Hershey still bring something to us to show us if his well rights are indeed on the subdivision?
That's,
Yeah, he's saying that that the surveyor has already done that.
There's a deed of record. There's no argument that the well rights don't exist to the
Right.
place that we show on the plan.
Yeah, right. So we have the information that we need.
Okay.
Do you have some conditions that we should consider?
I just have the standard conditions, one referring to the packet of materials as received, applicant being required to submit a Mylar for recording, applicant responsible for all recording fees, and the applicant would be responsible for monumentation and the certificate of monumentation once that's completed, if it hasn't been already.
Okay, I'll make a motion then to grant this subdivision.
Close the public hearing.
Yes, I'll close the public hearing. Yes, close the public hearing. And I'll make a motion to grant the subdivision application for 510 Pine Hill Road in the GR zone. Meets all the standards for the GR zone. The applicant has justified the waivers that he has requested. The applicant also understands that no special use permit will be granted for setbacks from the wetlands since this is a new lot. There is an on-site septic system and a well to be provided for the water. And also there's a New Hampshire DES permit and a driveway permit. Also, it seems that the subdivision regulations of 600 feet apart, that we can waive that without having to grant a waiver, just that the state has already issued the permit. So that kind of takes care of that issue. So that's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, moving right along to Ferncliff Trust, 161 Sewell Road, tax map and lot 229-22, case 2023-04. This is a subdivision for 5 lots. This is in the village district, so the requirement is a half-acre lot for this particular application. Is the applicant here? Yes, he is. You're going to tell us who you are, right? And going to describe the property. And there apparently were no waiver requests.
There are no waiver requests.
Okay. There are wetlands on the properties abutting this, and so if you could just justify whether there's a setback required for those wetlands. And I don't believe there are any wetlands on the subject property. Is that correct?
There is a small wetland.
Okay.
On Lot 5.
All right.
It's been delineated by a certified wetland scientist, so that's all good.
Okay, then why don't you go ahead and describe the project to us then?
First, I am Frank McMahon with Horizons Engineering. I'm representing the Ferncliff Trust in this 5-lot subdivision. The property is located at 161 Sewell Road. It's depicted on tax map 229, lot 22. It's zoned as village residential. which has a 1.5 acre minimum lot size and 75-foot frontage minimum. And the form factor also needs to be less than 35 for each lot. So lot 1 is 1.26 acres and has 97.82 feet of frontage. Lot 1 has 1.26 acres and 97.82 feet of frontage. Lot 2 has 1.09 acres and 98.77 feet of frontage. Lot 3 has 1.28 acres and 157.69 feet of frontage, and it also contains the existing structure. Lot 4 has 0.96 acres and 144.81 feet of frontage. Lot 5 has 1 acre and 255.55 feet of frontage, and they all meet the form factor requirements. And all the frontage is on Sewell Road for all lots, or Sewell Road. Okay. None of these lots are in flood zones, Zone X. As I said, wetlands have been delineated by a certified wetland scientist. This subdivision does not need state approval because there is no septic going on this site. These lots are served by the town, sewer and water. And I believe we had conditional approval, which we had to submit a Mylar plan and a monument certification, which I just gave to Tavis. That is all.
Okay, is that the end of your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions?
I wonder about the validity of lots 1 and 2 because of their width based on the set.
Got to get into the mic.
I'm concerned about lots 1 and 2 based on their width and how you're going to put a house in that particular space, which is probably what, when you have the setbacks, is only going to be about 50 feet wide.
Well, the setbacks are on here, and
I'm talking about 1 and 2, which are very, very, very narrow lots.
Well,
and I don't understand how you're going to get houses on those. And you're going to have a driveway. You're going to have somebody with a wanting a garage. I don't understand how those narrow lots are going to be able to sustain a house.
the lots do meet the form factor requirement. That form factor requirement is designed to prevent lots from being strange shapes, which could be related to what you're talking about. You can still build a house in that area. You just can't build it beyond the setbacks. The setbacks are shown on the plan. I would say that it's possible to build a house on those lots.
I guess I would also then suggest that this particular area tends to have reasonably large houses. And so therefore, if we're going to maintain the integrity of that neighborhood, you're going to have these houses which are, very, very narrow. And I don't quite understand how you're going to get them there.
Are you suggesting that the required lot size in the district promotes inconsistent development with the existing neighborhood?
No, I am just saying that the shape of these things makes it so it's very, very difficult for a house to be built on them. And I guess if I were going to do this subdivision, I would put lots 1 and 2 together. That would be my preference. Obviously, this is not what you're trying to do.
That's not what the applicant wanted.
So my understanding of this zone is that the front of the house has to be between 20 and 30 feet from the street.
Correct.
Right.
So these houses are right up on the road.
Correct.
They can't be closer to the road than that distance.
No, they have to
or
start
further from 30. They have
between
to be
20 and
within.
30 feet.
Oh, within that. Okay. Well, there is ample space to build a house, and like we were discussing, there is no requirement to have a specific type of house in this neighborhood.
It just happens to have to be between 20 and 30 feet to the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's understood.
This,
It
Oh,
would
okay.
look like Pleasant Street, if you know where that is. It's parallel to Main Street. And
Off
the
the top.
houses are up on the road. They're between 20 and 30 feet from the road. That's what this is based on. This zoning is based on. So if,
But that's not a
Which is
bad
not-
thing, Fawn. It can be a
Just
smaller house.
Just a second, she's trying to finish.
that's what?
It could be a smaller house.
No, I'm just saying that these houses have to be, the new houses have to be up on the street. Just, that's the way it is. I just want to make sure that the owners understand that. And there's my concern with lots 1 and 2 is not that you can't get a house on a 97-foot wide lot. It's that it probably means that your garage, if you have a garage, is, straight in and under. Unless you have an easement.
Well, the garage has to be behind the front plane of the home anyway.
Right. So it's,
But
I'm
those are-
wondering
those
about
are- Lots
driveway
of these are
easements.
site design questions which aren't before the board tonight.
Right.
So the question is, functionally, do they meet the area requirement in acreage? Do they meet the frontage requirement? And do they meet the form factor? And the answer has been suggested to be yes.
I just want to make sure that the owners understand what
Oh, I-
they're dealing with. They know.
I agree. Many of the existing homes down there do not comport with the regulation that currently applies to these. So Peter's right to a fact. This is going to look different, but they don't have a choice because of the zone they're in.
It will look more like Pleasant Street than Sewell Road.
And the 97 feet is a diagonal, it is not the horizontal across that property. How wide are these lots?
Straight across from side to side.
Straight across,
Yeah.
how far are they across?
I don't have a value for that.
Maybe 80 feet?
Well, the straight line at the back of Lot 1 is almost 100 feet.
Yeah, but that's wider than it is at the front, and then you have a 10-foot setback, so you have 60 feet you can build a house in, which...
That's still a big house.
It's fine, yes.
So Peter, if you looked at the other house on Lot 3,
It fits.
and, I mean, that's a big house. And if you took that footprint and put it in the middle of Lot 2, in the middle of Lot 1, I mean, that's a big house. That Krause's house, that's a big house.
Is that house going to remain?
That house is going to remain.
The existing house?
As far as I know, is going to
But
remain.
the house on Lot 3 looks like it has a driveway which goes behind it. And if you end up having a driveway which goes past one of these houses, then I think you may have an issue, unless, maybe you can put the driveway right at the boundary line, so that's not an issue.
The driveway you're referring to is referred to under C Note 3. It's the former location of Sewell Road. So there's an easement there, but it's not actually there. There's another note where Lot 3's driveway crosses onto Lot 4 to provide access to remain there, which may or may not remain after the plan is recorded.
Tavis, I saw in your notes from the TRC that was mention of the Sewell Road Improvement District. Can you tell us what that is?
That is not something that anyone is aware of. That's not a real thing.
Okay.
That's what came out at TRC.
Thank you.
So I wrote it as a question mark, but it doesn't exist.
Other questions?
So where's all the drainage gonna end up here? Do they have to meet?
Stormwater design all happens at the time of building permit. That's not part of the subdivision review. It's almost impossible to know that without knowing where the house is going to be, where the driveway is going to be, how wide the driveway is going to be, how big the house is going to be. So that all gets handled at the building permit phase, not part of the subdivision.
But we do know where the house will be. And we do know, because there aren't easements, at least for lots 1 and 2, that those driveways would have to go straight in.
What I'm saying is subdivision isn't the time to apply stormwater
No, I know. I
regulations.
just want to make sure that the owners and the agent here understand that. maybe that wasn't the design intent. I just want to make sure that this is what they want.
Well, and again, if the board approves the application tonight, they still may not go through with it. There might be a phone call between Horizons and myself and the owner when they're watching at home on TV and they say, wait, we have to what? That might change, and then they would come back and revise the application.
So I would ask that the owners and you review this, just to make sure you won't really want to do this, and consider what you're required to do by the zoning district, because it's probably not what you're thinking.
The other thing that came up at the technical review committee was the wetlands on some of the abutting properties. Did you check those to make sure that they're not going to affect any of your lots?
We didn't delineate any wetlands beyond the property. The wetland scientist.
Well, that was what
he
was
generally checks beyond the property lines.
Well, that's what came up at TRC. The conservation chairman was concerned that some of the wetlands could, on the adjoining properties, could affect the setbacks on the proposed lots. And she just wanted us to be aware of that, which I thought was good, because property owners should be aware of what they're getting into.
Yeah, I agree. Like this wetland here,
Yeah,
it does appear that it goes off the lot. We don't show it, though. It's been he was out there. We just don't show that beyond the lot. I don't,
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what.
Okay. All right, anything else? Then it seems that this is a complete application. Make a motion to accept the application as complete.
A second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I can now open the public hearing. So any member of the public that wants to speak to this issue, come on up and give us your name and your thoughts.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ale Cutler, and I'm at 6 Frost Camp Road, which is one of 4 seasonal homes at Frost Camp. As a larger extended family, we also own a parcel across Sewell Road that abuts the subject property. It would seem the engineers have done their job and have met the dimensional and frontage requirements under the current zoning bylaws. However, I would like to raise 2 areas of concern for the record. I could go into the ecology and all the various species, both animal, plant, that exist on these parcels, including salamanders, owls, frogs, lady slippers, ferns, trees, deer, etc. And though I am not an environmental scientist, I have walked the abutting woods my entire life and observed all. Tonight, I would like to point out 2 areas of special concern. One is a safety standpoint. The curvature of Sewell Road in this area presents quite a hazard for any existing driveways, much less any new driveways. The other issue, which is more pressing, is that of the sometimes excessive and seemingly more current runoff from the proposed lots, particularly the one adjacent to the Frost Camp property. There are several times a year that runoff from this property makes its way along Sewell Road and then down our driveway to the point of flooding and washing out our driveway. That concern with the inevitable denuding of trees and subsequent addition of impervious surface that will be placed on the lots, the runoff will be even worse, causing much harm to our property, both financially and potentially longer physical changes. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good.
I'm Dick Ayers. I live at 176 Sewell Road, which is right straight across from the 2 narrow lots that you're looking at. And my primary concern is that if there are straight driveways going into those houses, they're just going to create a runway for water to come right down and right across Sewell Road and right into our property. And I don't know how any kind of storm drainage or swale is going to accommodate that if the driveway is going straight into those lots. That's my primary concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Ilsley. I'm at 160 Sewell Road. Our property as an abutter is directly across from proposed lot number 3, where the main house exists right now. I have 2 concerns. The first one is sewage hookups. We've heard that they're going to do sewage hookups to town sewer. I know there's a draft sewer report in front of the Board of Selectmen right now, but if anyone ever walks down Sewell Road in the summertime, if you look on your plans closely, at the end of the driveway on plot number 3, there's a sewer vent there, which is at the top of my driveway. The stench that comes out of that in the summertime because of the overloaded sewer line on Sewell Road is pretty bad. And without wind, or even with a prevailing wind, it comes right down to my front door. So that's a pretty big concern. If you put 5 houses up there, it's only going to increase the load on that sewer line. Number 2, we've heard it pretty much all night, and that's the storm water runoff. In my basement in the spring, I get hydrostatic pressure that brings water up through my concrete floor. Not the walls, it comes right up through the floor. It comes up in the spring, and if you remember July last year, we had that huge rainstorm. It came up through the floor then again. With the addition of 5 lots and taking down all the trees and the forest up there, I just can't imagine how bad it's going to be. And lastly, if the applicant had come forward with, 2 or 3 lots, or as you even, the planning board, suggested, combine 1 and 2, I probably wouldn't be here tonight. But 5 lots, 1 and 2 being bowling alleys, I just don't think that's good planning. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Peter Eichling. I'm an abutter on Point Sewell Road. Our property abuts the proposed first narrow lot. I had a question on safety of the intersection of Point Sewell and Sewell, and whether a driveway coming out of that first lot would cause a safety concern because it's so close to that corner. So I don't know if that's been considered, but that's an area for walkers and bikers and every resident of Point Sewell. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Applicant, do you want to speak to the driveway issue? That it keeps coming up. It seems that if you could consider shared driveways or anything, because I agree that.
What, the runoff issue with the driveways being straight?
No, I'm concerned about driveways coming off of all of those lots on a pretty narrow, heavily used, by bikes and walkers and traffic, and how that's going to affect the overall safety of the neighborhood.
And also the proximity of the driveway for Lot 1 to Sewell Point Road, as the previous person just mentioned. Tavis?
I would suggest that you might want to defer to the Public Works Director who reviewed this, contemplated the driveways, and was comfortable with the number of driveways, the proximity of potential driveways to the intersection. There are rules on how close it can be to the intersection, and then improvements that would be made along Sewell Road to accommodate the drainage coming from them. I don't know if the current applicant knows where the driveways are going to be or what the ultimate design would be.
I'm asking him if he would consider, consolidating some of them. So, have one driveway for a couple of the lots and leave the one that's already developed, and then have the last 2 have shared driveways. It's just a question.
I think it's something they could consider.
I think that we could consider it. Oh, you'd need, like you were saying, the Public Works, you need another opinion on the sewer loading. I mean, what he was saying about the smell as well, that's something that the applicant is just asking for a 5-lot subdivision. This is information that needs to be brought up by the Public Works about the sewer. And as for the driveways, those are not designed yet. I'm not designing them. We don't have that here tonight. This is only the subdivision. So there could be a way to design driveways on these lots. They could, similar to this one, they could come in at an angle. As of now, the applicant wants 5 lots out of this
Okay, well,
main lot.
has the applicant considered the safety of Sewell Road in wanting to have 5 lots? I mean, I know the zoning allows it.
The zoning allows it, and that was the that was it. If the zoning would allow it, then the
Tavis,
applicant
are
wants
the
to go
Public
through.
Works Director's comments available to us?
Yeah, they were in the technical review comments, and he made no comments at all.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
didn't.
I didn't see anything in
Right, I didn't see any either. I was there.
He said they were said at TRC. The fact that there was no comment means there were no concerns. So the absence of a comment is the affirmative that there's no issue.
Okay.
It's not often the response to say, yes, I have no problem with this because it seems to comply with the rules.
Thank you.
So the question to Tavis, so in a normal situation, lots that are out there still, somebody builds on the lot, they go to your office, they go to the Public Works to get a permit for a driveway.
In this case, because it's a town road, they would get a driveway permit through Public Works, yes. So they'd be integrating the driveway with the existing stormwater system along the road.
So along that road, do we have cleanouts, or do we have any future drainage, anything that's going to help collect water and sediment along that high side there in the future? Or
Probably not more than any other town road.
no?
I don't think any road in town has a long-term plan outlined for cleanouts and improvements at this point.
So one suggestion here is just to look at the evidence on the site. This family, these owners have owned this property for a long time, and they have come sideways up the hill to make a gradual grade. And you can see Lot 3 has an easement over Lot 4 to continue using that driveway because it makes sense. So when I drive by there, I see that Lot 1 and 2 are just as steep as Lot 3 that needs that angled approach. Perhaps a solution would be to create an easement across 4-3 for 1 and 2 so that you can continue to use that road as a shared driveway and not dump all these driveways down. I mean, yes, it would put your driveway behind your house, but maybe that's where your garage wants to go anyway. Just a suggestion on the driveway solution.
So they would only be able to create 3 lots then, Vaughn, because you can only have 3 lots off of one driveway.
Yeah.
Right, but 4 and 5 would be going a different way.
You could have 3 off of
Yeah, that would
one
be
and
3 lots.
2 off the other.
4 and
just
5 are
2.
kind of gradual. You could go right in, and they're wider frontage.
Again, I would suggest the board is getting,
Into the
it's
weeds.
all helpful suggestions, but it's
Well,
designing the development.
We're just asking questions,
Well, you know,
okay?
and you hate to develop lots that are hard to build on.
Correct.
Yeah.
So does the board have the authority to move something forward to an easement aspect before we approve the application?
I would suggest the board needs some pretty hard and fast documentation to make a requirement above and beyond what the zoning requirements are.
Okay.
Well, I
But we
don't
could
see why we
suggest in the
couldn't
future they
keep
may
it
want that
open.
easement before they sell off the lots individually.
And just to clarify, this is old Sewell Road.
Yeah.
It's not that they needed to have it that way. The driveway for Lot 3 did not
And
have
I'm
to be that way.
I'm not sure that you'd be allowed to keep that angle for a new driveway because typically you
Right,
want the
sure.
driver entering closer to 90 degrees.
Right. but imagine on that lot going straight in, how would that be? Wouldn't work too well. You know, you'd be digging into the underground parking and have an elevator. Just something to consider.
Go ahead, Peter.
Tavis, given that these fit the requirements for lots in Wolfeboro, can we really deny this subdivision?
Again, I think the board should get some expert attention to particular areas of concern if the board is concerned that these lots can't be developed consistent with the zoning regulations as presented.
I think we should ask for a demonstration of how they could be developed and fit the code, because I don't know that they can. And different questions have come up. I think you can fit a house on 100 feet of frontage.
You can fit a house on, the town doesn't have any driveway regulations with regard to how steep the driveway can be. So you're getting into a lot of tricky weeds. I'm not saying that steep driveways are good or that steep driveways don't create runoff issues. What I'm saying is the town doesn't have any driveway regulations beyond the right-of-way. You know, there's not an things the town can consider, all driveways have to be 8% or less. But we don't have that currently. So if the board felt that the topography as shown in the subdivision plan was going to create a dangerous situation, you should base that on something other than, gee, we think that that looks like a steep driveway, we shouldn't approve the lot.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would suggest that our discussion about it here this evening puts the developer or owner on notice, but I don't know that we have the ability to put that as a condition of our approval.
No, but you could always suggest recommendations that they
Yes.
consider shared driveways or, ways to reduce the pitch of the driveway or slope of the driveway. Again, it's very different. If you're looking at this as an overall, like a planned unit development or that sort of site plan review, you'd have to know where the buildings are, and you would be contemplating all of the interactions between all the buildings and the road. If this were a subdivision where that extent of Sewell Road was proposed, the planning board would have every bit of discussion on how the proposed lots discharged or didn't discharge water into the road. It's state law that none of the lots can allow a greater rate or quantity of water than currently leaves them when they're built. So they can't just put all the downspouts into the driveway and shoot it out into the road and say, here's our water. They have to maintain the existing flow of water. It's not to be increased.
Okay, we're still in the public comment section. Any other members of the public want to say anything? Okay. Okay.
Attila Simon. I live at 63 Sewell. It's part of this is selfish, part of it's community-oriented, but just being there now for a couple of years, I've noticed that the construction traffic has picked up. Something like this would be, you're going to have contractors going, you got 5 houses. Between my house right now and Point Sewell Road, there's 6 houses. So this would put it up to 10, effectively almost doubling it. Contractors go in the morning, come out at coffee break, go in after coffee break, go out at lunch, go in after lunch, go out for afternoon break, come after break, and they go back again. Now, Goodhue is going up and down the road constantly with that off-site building that they built. Goodhue is up and down that road all 7 days a week, nonstop boat trips. It's a very heavily walked road, and I completely agree with that. Just aesthetically speaking, this just doesn't work with the neighborhood. I think it's going to look like not well, and I don't like it at all. And I don't understand how, is it basically any lot, if it conforms, can be just chopped up into little pieces, and is that what we really want to do, is take any nice house sitting on 5 acres and chop it up into 5 spots? I just don't think that's what we want.
Okay, thank you.
Hello,
Carol Simon, 63 Sewell. That the water runoff is a huge problem, so if you're going to approve this as 5 buildable lots, you better take that into consideration, because we walk that street every single day. The runoff is enormous. It's flooding over the road in the springtime in that section right there. The catch basins, I have one in front of my house. There's lots of little streams that run between everybody's property on the right side of the road. It's all leading into the lake, but the chopping that up, removing all those trees, that's a heavily wooded area, and like you've said, it's a steep driveway. I don't see how you're going to put 5 straight up driveways that way and safely ride your bike, walk down that road. You know, like you said, Goodhue is up and down that road right now as it is. There's a ton of traffic. You're going to add a whole bunch more traffic and a whole bunch more problems with the water runoff. You're abutting Sewell Woods. It's going to be a nightmare. Just because a lot can technically be considered a buildable lot doesn't mean that it is a buildable lot. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, board members, any questions, comments? Oh, okay.
I like Vaughn's approach about bringing the driveway in across traversing the hillside. I really did like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge idea. I don't know how we get there, but it is a good idea.
Okay, thanks, John.
So can I just ask,
Yep.
If we allow the subdivision, the owner has met the conditions to divide this land into 5 lots. But if somebody buys the land to build a house on, is that where other things can be imposed, like a shared driveway? I mean, would the potential buyers and builders be the ones having to contend with some of these issues? Is that how it would work?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because I kind of agree that it looks like we are locked into the zoning requirements and what people can and cannot do. But I think the concerns that have been raised are certainly legitimate. And I was thinking too, it's not just the spring when the water's coming down. I'm kind of wondering about in the wintertime, because we do have those days when there's melt, and then at night it's freezing. So I'm thinking to myself, well, does this just turn into a big skating rink on that part of the road? That's what I would be a little bit more worried about, I think.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
You have to remember, at the basis of all this was zoning, is that zoning is a version, and I'm treading in legalese, so when Roger's eyes crinkle up, I'll know to stop. But basically, any regulation is a version of a taking. A taking is removal of property rights. So what I'm suggesting is, if you want to go down the path of requiring, perhaps in the future, shared driveways, that's something that needs to be added to the zoning ordinance. So if a property meets a certain set of parameters, X number of feet of X number of pitch of slope or something like that, that's something that the town would ultimately have to vote on to make that a rule so that the planning board could impose it. Right now, as I said, you don't have driveway regulations beyond how you interface with the road. And really what's left is, how big is the parcel? What's the frontage? Does it comply? Does it meet the form factor? Because if it's not written as something you can regulate, the board going beyond what's written that you can regulate is kind of getting on thin ice. I'm not saying that the applicant wouldn't do it, wouldn't consider it, but if it's appealed, it's going to be hard to justify unless you can put some science behind it.
So
go ahead,
we do
Tina.
know that they cannot increase the runoff from their property onto the road or onto the adjacent properties. That's just something that will come up during the building permit process. It's going to be hard on if this is a family that keeps it, it'll be hard on 1 and 2, not so hard on 3, 4, and 5, but the owner should probably have a look at this.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
I have a question. If we approve a 5-lot subdivision, and at some point, the owners decide that they'd like to move the boundaries so that there are only 4 lots, would they have to come back to us to get approval?
For a merger, yes. A merger or a boundary line adjustment.
So this would be making these particular lots, and so then they would have to do the merger?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that might be, I mean, I don't know if the current owner's planning on shopping out 5 houses to be built, or if they're making 5 lots available. It's quite possible that somebody says, look, I'd love to live on Sewell Road, but these lots are too small, I'll take 2. It happens more often than you might think in this community. Or I might want all 3 of them. Not me, don't get
Anyway,
whatever the case may be. I might want them, but it's not happening.
So in other words, if they were going to adjust the lot lines, they'd have to do a boundary line adjustment, but that wouldn't have to come back and do a new subdivision necessarily?
No. Okay. Subdividing is just creating the lots. Once you play within that number of lots, it's not technical. Well, no, that's the short answer.
Okay, Tavis, do you have any conditions for us to consider?
I did. I originally had 5 that are in the review. I'm going to distill that down to 3. For those following along with the written ones, they're going to be conditions 1, 3, and 4 as originally presented. The following plans, that includes everything that was received as of 4/11/23 and those things received this evening. The applicant shall submit a Mylar, has been removed because it's in front of me. The applicant shall be responsible for payment of all recording fees, and all documentation becomes the binding part of the application. So they've already satisfied 2 and 5 with this packet of information here. So those are the recommended conditions.
Okay, well, you suggested that we could ask in the conditions of approval some suggested thoughts from the planning board.
But you can, in addition to what I would suggest is if the board has specific recommendations, that they be included but not be made part of the notice of decision.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, I mean, I really do think that they should think about shared driveways. And also, I think that they really need to consider the runoff and the effect that it's having on the roadway and the abutting or the adjoining properties, especially across the street. So, I mean, there's something that we can put in like that. If people don't agree with this, speak up. Anything else that you think we should ask them to think about? Okay, so everybody's all set?
The public discussion closed? Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm on almost 2 acres.
Yeah, wait a minute, can you just...
I'm on almost 2 acres, so if I came to you and proposed a lateral driveway and I could chop my lot up into 4 chunks, and you'd be okay with that?
Yes, you could.
You guys wouldn't have a choice, you'd be okay with that. I mean, I think we're looking at one of the original houses on Sewell Road.
Yes,
it's kind of an
we
icon.
are.
It's a beautiful piece of property, and chop, chop, chop. We're just going to do that, and then you guys, our hands are tied that you really can't do a whole lot about that.
Right.
That's,
Yeah, you're right. I think it probably is one of the original houses.
I think it is.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and then make a motion to approve the subdivision. If I can find my notes.
Did we accept the application as complete?
Yes, we did.
We did, okay.
And then open the public hearing. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the 5-lot subdivision known as Ferncliff Trust. It meets the requirements for the A zone, which is ½ acre. The form factors comply. It will be attached to the town sewer and water. The adjacent wetlands on adjacent properties really need to be looked at to make sure that they don't affect the individual lots. No waivers have been requested. and the planning board has listened to the public, understands very much their concerns, but feel that this does meet the subdivision regulations for the town. And that's my motion, if somebody wants to second that.
I'll second that.
Okay, okay, so I closed the public hearing. I did close.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Unfortunately, aye.
Was there somebody that was opposed?
I think that there were some people who regrettably said aye.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was
Yeah.
the zoning regulations, the way it has to be done.
Well, I would suggest all board members write down notes and thoughts on this, and perhaps it's a future workshop.
But it is a legal subdivision.
Yeah, I mean, the one gentleman that said, well, can I do that? I mean, the short answer is if it's large enough, maybe, but believe it or not, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into making the simple map that shows 5 rectangles. There are a lot of things that actually get considered.
Okay, so thank you all very much for coming. And this is an approved subdivision with some suggestions for the property owners. The next application, TCW Property Development LLC, Peapod LLC, 31 South Main Street.
We have some quiet in the room, please.
31 South Main Street, tax map and lot 217-90, case 203-09. This is for a site plan approval for the addition of a second floor deck.
It gets to the constructible, but they'll be back.
Right?
Hi, I'm Tony Fallon Architecture, here for the applicant. So what the proposal is to add a second floor deck over the existing first floor deck. That's the main reason that we're here before you tonight. The existing deck is 18 by 18 on the first floor that you're all familiar with. And the proposal is to have a less deep deck, less coming off the building towards the water.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was in. A less deep deck, 12 feet versus the 18-foot current one. However, the full width of the building, so to be 24 feet wide. There will be, as far as finishes go, we plan to match the look of the first floor deck with the Douglas fir for the framing members. As far as the trim of them, we'll use pressure treated, but then trim them out with Douglas fir. Painted clapboards, painted trim, match the glass railing system. There are going to be some awnings and image awnings that's going to do for both decks. I've depicted them in general. I don't really have drawings for them as yet, but it will provide full cover for both decks. There will be, as far as the accessibility, we're going to have an accessible route all the way through the first floor, coming in the front door, accessible bathroom, that type of thing. Being less than 3,000 square feet of a footprint for this type of use, we don't need an accessible route, i.e. elevator, beyond the first floor. So we do comply with accessibility for this type of building, this size and this use.
This is going. There's a restaurant on the first floor and a restaurant on the second floor.
Correct.
Different restaurants, or?
Well, it's the same kitchen. It's kind of evolving. It had been, it's not going to be self-serve anymore. It'll all be wait staff that will serve you both floors. The kitchen will all be on the first floor. It had originally been pictured as more of a function facility, but it could go kind of either way. I guess for all intents and purposes, I would just consider it a restaurant on both floors, kitchen on the first.
Okay, and so there is no need to connect to the adjoining building, is that?
There's some connection through firewall and fire doors, which maintains it as a separate building for staff in the kitchen to kitchen. The two kitchens are going to be connected.
That's on the second floor?
No, that's just first
floor.
First floor, yeah.
Oh, okay, so is it covered or, I mean?
Yeah, it's a little covered way across the alley, just for the kitchen staff, for the local Topia kitchen staff to be able to get into this downtown grill kitchen area, but it's still considered two separate buildings. Part of that is just to be able to share staff and services, but also in local Topia / Wicked Loon, they really have no storage, at a lower level, so it'll allow them, the existing restaurant that's up and going to have some storage, down to the basement. One correction in my cover letter to you, I'd said there was a delta of 20 additional parking spaces because of how they've reconfigured the second floor. It's going to be 23 more as far as calculation goes, but then we say we have the alternative parking plan of using the town lots that are, adjacent, so.
Did you need any waivers?
No, not that I know of. We went through technical review. The thing that I was asked to do at technical review I have done with you tonight just really was discussing the accessible route. All other department heads, gave it a thumbs up.
This is really coming to the board for the architectural design standards aspect of site plan review, because the site physically isn't changing.
Okay, but in your comments, Tavis, under security, it says staff supports waiver request, so that's why I brought it up.
There was discussion early on about potential waivers, but that was addressed after this was written, so I can remove that comment.
Oh, okay, so there are no.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So any units on the top, air conditioning, fan, vents, anything like that, that's going to need to be screened?
Only dealing with the deck.
Well, no, we can ask any questions we want.
I do not know, how the air conditioning is being handled, where the condensers are going. I don't know if they're going to land on the roof of the current building, 27 or not. But
What was that last comment?
excuse me.
What was the last comment, 27?
My basic answer is I don't know.
You don't know if they're going to be rooftop mechanical units, or you don't know if they'll be screened?
I don't know, where they're going. I would imagine they're going to be rooftop up with everything else on 27, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
That would be architectural.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, and I think, John's asked a legitimate question because they do need to be screened. And sometimes people forget about that. So, okay, sorry. You brought up the bathroom issue. There's going to be one on the main floor and then people are going to have to go down to the ground floor and enter the second bathroom?
For the second bathroom, yeah.
Okay, what about the second floor?
There's 2 bathrooms up there.
Okay. Okay, the only reason I brought it up is because you mentioned it, so.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
So how will somebody in a wheelchair be able to access this facility?
Enter the front door. There'll be a power assist added to the existing door. So that makes, whereas the current front door does not have power assist, and it's in a little narrow kind of a alleyway you're all familiar with. By adding a power assist, it makes it accessible. So that gains you access into the first floor. And then there's more than a 32-inch wide space all the way back to the bathroom and throughout the whole first floor. There is a slight rise up that you're familiar with. It's not a ramp slope, which would be 1 in 12. It's a 5% slope, which requires no railings. So you can, this complies with the accessibility rules because we provide an accessible route from the street through the front door, all through the first floor, with an accessible toilet room.
So what happens when they want to get to the second floor with the rest of their friends?
Well, that's how the laws are written. To not be, the ADA is written so that it's not unreasonably burdensome if you have a small enough building, i.e. a 3,000 square foot footprint or less. You don't have to provide an elevator. That's how the law is written. I didn't write them.
I read the ordinance and the ADA official, and I thought it came down to any alterations of the building for new construction, which turn that hurdle over so that you need to provide ADA access.
Correct. Well, and of course, I never do anything without hiring a code consultant anymore because there's lots and lots and lots of layers of codes and things might conflict here and there. However, to your point, if this was a 4,000 square foot footprint, we have a different story. Then we have an elevator required. Then you would have to have an accessible route on all floors. 3,000 square foot or less, and this is 3,000 square foot or less, including the new deck, and on both floors. Including the existing deck on the first floor and including the second floor deck, all the footprints are less than 3,000 square feet. For this use, a restaurant, you are not required to have an elevator throughout the building. The technical term is you don't have to have the accessible route above the entry floor. If this was a doctor's office and it was 1,000 square feet and it was 2 stories, you'd have to have the elevator. It's just how the law is written.
Just for board clarity, all the interior work that is generally being discussed is already permitted and moving forward. So I think if board members have questions on ADA and things like that with regard to bathrooms and passageways, that should be addressed with the building official.
He was the one that brought it up in the explanation.
I know. My concern is the board talking about it as though there's going to be changes to it from the planning board's authority, and I don't think you have the jurisdiction to do that.
Well, my question was relative to the new deck going out on the top floor, which services people, so, I mean, come on.
I mean, please, no. I was a volunteer with adaptive skiing for 12 years. This is my job to try to get this right. I generally try to do residential stuff. I wanted to try to help get some things right that aren't always. So this does comply. So I attest, and I risk myself in attesting that this complies.
So I have a question relative to colors and things that are consistent with the downtown, since this is largely an architectural review. What are the colors of the canopies and the materials?
It's to be determined. I don't have any idea about the color of the awning, and I'm not sure about the color of the painted trim.
So that would have to come back and be clarified.
I don't know if your regulations speak to,
Traditional materials consistent with the downtown. That's
well,
what-
materials are listed, colors are not.
Correct.
Vaughn, do you have any suggestions that we could sort of include?
Well, just that they're consistent with some of the other colors and materials that are downtown. That's still quite a lot.
Yeah, right.
But hopefully it's not pink and,
Yeah.
shiny silver aluminum, but we don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I think you can look at 27 and get an idea. I mean, I've already said that as far as the framing, it's going to be matching the Doug fir just as it is on 27. I don't know if he's, I think you have the flavor of, with 27 of what they're planning to do.
So are you representing that it will be consistent with the materials on 27?
Well, yeah, it's consistent with the material. It's the same clapboards and painted trim. That's what I said on the drawings. It's painted clapboards, painted trim. I just don't know the color. So the material, which is what I was trying to clarify, on the drawing, it's painted clapboards, painted trim, except for the wood framing of the deck. So we're going to match what's going on at 27 with that. I just can't tell you it's going to be green or blue or,
And as far as you know, there will be no additional mechanical equipment that will need screening.
That I don't know.
Because that is an item that needs screening, if it's there. So we would need to approve that if that's proposed.
Well, I guess, that my suggestion, if that's something we want to look at, is to, it would be good to approve the deck at this point, just so that, they can build that and we can kind of enter phase two. As far as the screening, I don't mind, coming back again for that, either by a resubmission or kind of a continuous of this in a phase two, however you want to do it.
So I would look for a condition of approval that if any mechanical equipment is on the exterior of the building, that we see in the future some kind of screening of that.
Isn't that already in the regulations?
It is, but we don't know what's happening here. We don't know what equipment is coming, and we don't know where it is, and we haven't seen what the screening is.
Right.
So
I think it would be helpful if the board were to go down that path. I think the board would need to make a determination that adding mechanical equipment is an expansion of a non-residential use requiring site plan review. And you're going to start seeing every piece of mechanical equipment if you go down that path.
What's so scary about that?
It's a lot of work.
I don't think you understand how many exterior appurtenant structures get added like that without site plan review.
Well, unfortunately, this is right downtown in the middle of everything, and
I'm talking about the downtown specifically, when people add condensers routinely without coming to site plan review. Right now, the definition of site plan is for those projects that are new commercial or expansion of a non-residential use. That has not been extrapolated out to mean I'm putting a condenser on my building, therefore I need site plan review.
But this is a new structure.
This is a deck.
Yeah.
The only thing before you is a deck tonight. So what I'm saying is if you want to go down the path of requiring screening for all mechanical equipment that's added,
Well, it's in the regulations, so I think it was a legitimate
it's in the
thing to bring
regulation.
it
It's
up.
in the regulations when site plan is required. What I'm saying is right now, site plan isn't required for adding mechanical equipment unless you want to make that a determination and a finding going forward.
okay, I have a question.
Sure.
So in this picture here, you show the under deck, and it's a smaller deck, and then you show the top deck. You add that rectangle piece to that left-hand side. Is that So we're not building straight over the footprint of the existing deck, we're expanding the other deck.
That's how I opened and
Okay.
described it to you. Yeah,
So
we're doing.
then you talk about your awning. I suppose this large canvas thing here is your awning that you're talking about. And then you've got one that bumps off the front, but it looks like that fascia of that header right there is on the town's property line and your property line. So your awning thing is going to hang over the parking lot, and all that water's going to run down over the handicap person. That's,
Turn the page, John.
no.
PB3. Look at PB3.
You're going to need the mic.
Yeah, you need the.
Excuse me,
mic.
could you get the microphone?
Pull it off.
Sorry about that. So here's the property line. The existing deck is, I don't know, 8 inches, 6 feet back. Is all this awning does is goes out and covers the deck, so it's on. It's
No,
still.
this is the property line right there, because it's at the front of the existing deck. That's it, right there. So if that awning hangs out off of that face.
If I may, sir, this is the property line here. So you want to go look at the survey, please, the plan.
John, I think if you look at page 3 at the section view, you'll see that the upper deck protrudes less from the building than the lower deck, and the awning covers only the deck. It doesn't go out into the property. And then the drainage off of the awning is going to fall right at the property line. You see in the upper right
Okay,
corner of that
yeah.
drawing?
Still, though, if you're protruding the water over the outside of the front of the deck, you're landing the water on the town's property, then you're actually on the town's property. So if you were on your property, your awning would be landing the water on your own deck.
No, we're back from the property with the existing deck.
I know, but I'm saying the drip edge. If your drip edge was on your property, it would be landing on your deck. If your awning is extended, which you want it to do, you want to extend past the deck, means that it falls on the town's property. It doesn't land on their own property. It extends out. So if the water's going to drip off the awning, it's going to have to drip onto the deck down below.
We have a foot buffer there. We can just overhang by 6 inches. It's not,
I'm down there every day. I see it.
Okay.
I know they're right there. They're on the line. That deck is right on the line.
This is a survey by Horizons now. It was.
You're saying how much room do you have to the front of the deck?
It looks like about a foot. But the deck's back off.
I know where there's a white line right down there, right next to the handicap spot. It goes right up right up to the deck. So I mean, I'm trying to protect the town's interests, but I mean, I don't see how the concept can just dump the water out onto the town's property into the handicap spot. That's what I'm saying.
Could a condition of approval be that the awning, when installed, be verified to drip on the line, not over the line?
That's
I mean,
fine.
at the present point, the entire ground surface from Main Street to the lake is paved except for the deck. So there's the boardwalk that leads you to the docks. So, I mean, I understand technically the water can't drip over the edge, but even if the water lands 6 inches behind the edge, it's going to land on pavement and go the same place.
So right now, it lands on all the area on top of the deck. It lands on all that area, 20 feet's worth. So,
Right.
so basically, you're shedding that all outward onto the town's property to the town's parking lot, which is the boat ramp. It's going right there, right in the
Well,
boat.
I think it's going there now anyway. Even without that structure in place, it's all impervious surface. So it's going to fall on the deck, go down, and it's still going to end up in the lake, right?
Well, my
Yeah,
suggestion.
it's an existing, it's 100% impervious surface currently. We're
Right.
not changing anything.
Again,
as
my
far as
recommendation
impervious.
would be to require an as-built to prove that the front edge of the leading edge of the awning or deck or anything else be shown to be on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, I think John is right, that where it's shown right now, you're going to be dumping water into the handicap parking space.
And I think he is right, but it's going there now, is my point. It's landing on the deck and flowing
It's
underneath the
an
garbage cans
existing-
first, but it's still going there.
It's an existing situation that,
But it's not shedded water all at once. You see what I'm saying? It's like,
I get
yeah,
what you're
it's-
saying.
It's spread over the whole entire deck area. It's not just, I mean, the difference is you're pushing everything out right at one spot. So again, if you're a handicapped person and you're getting out of your van to help your disabled person or yourself, you're getting drenched from everything that's coming right down on top of you.
I guess, John, your point is that it's concentrating the outflow rather than distributing it over a larger area. Is that right?
So the board could always say, we're granting, conceptually, we're approving the deck, but not the awnings.
Yes.
Tabletop umbrellas would be fine.
Yeah. Which is what,
Are we actually looking at these awnings as like we can approve them?
yeah,
Do
Yes.
awnings
Yeah,
need
they're on the
an
plan.
approval?
the awnings that we really haven't seen, but.
Do
yeah.
awnings actually need to be approved on something like this, or isn't that just an after add-on?
It's on the plan.
It's on the plan.
The deck was considered to be an expansion of the existing building, therefore it triggered the site plan, because it's additional floor area, if you will. And that triggers site plan, and under site plan, you have the architectural design guidelines. But part of the site plan is where does the water go and how does the water go? So if the board determined that the awnings were changing the existing runoff from the site to the extent that it was a detriment to town property, therefore we recommend that you're denying the awnings.
Okay, because they also say they have roll-down curtains and things. Are we going to dicker about that too?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm being flip. Because you wrote down on the plans very beautifully that these are going to be lovely awnings with roll-down curtains. What happens if next month they decide not to use those kind of curtains and do something else, but we've approved roll-down curtains?
Well,
You
if
see where I'm going there?
Yeah, well,
Because those are normally an add-on type issue that's consumable. They're not a building. They can rip out in one season. It could be gone. I consider it just as a, when I was reading that, oh, there's going to have an awning in there in the future. I don't consider that part of the building because they're up for the season and then they're taken down and stored in the winter. They're not permanently attached, usually.
Well, architecturally speaking, as far as fire life safety, there will be sprinklers out under them. They become part of the building in that, it'll have to be a sprinkled part of the building. The other thing that I can do, just bring it up for discussion purposes, you can add gutters, downspouts, that type of thing. It'll still land in the same spot. I don't think there's any storm water catch basins anywhere nearby there. And of course, we just paved the whole lot. So, but that's something that I don't think would be, something the owner would mind, making part of the situation. Gutters and downspouts. It would just be dumping onto the pavement, though.
yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Tony, could you put a low slope, double slope awning similar to the awning on the upper level, shed the water side to side, as opposed to off the front edge? So another small, low slope gable awning instead of a single slope.
I know I could do a roof to do that. I'm not the awning. We could certainly explore it.
That way the water would shed side
Sure.
to side as opposed to off the leading edge, which is causing this
I,
discussion.
I don't see, I think that would work.
It's smaller than the one above it, so why couldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's just, well, it's just much less limited in the, I can't go
Height,
up to cover
yeah.
the railing and stuff. Sure, yeah, because it's not snow. Water will run off, a 1 in 12 or 1/8 inch in 12.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, sure. We can do that.
Well, again, I mean, you're just running the water off to one side, which is just the other town property, which is the park side. So, I mean,
But it keeps it off the guy that's helping his
it
grandmother.
it does do that, you do solve that one. That's a good idea there, yes.
Well, and reminder, this is in the C1 district that allows buildings to go to the property line.
I get it.
So by that virtue, anything coming off a building that's on the line is going to be dripping on the line.
I've been in the alleyway when it's raining. It's a lot of fun. But I was a dedicated measurer measuring.
Oh, okay, we haven't accepted this application.
Correct.
Okay, I entertain a motion to accept this application as complete,
So moved.
and I'll second it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, is there any member of the public that wanted to speak to this issue?
I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but at the Wentworth Watershed Office,
Ann.
my name is Ann Blodgett. At the Wentworth Watershed Office, there is what's called a storm garden. It collects, it looks like a raised wooden garden bed. It collects water off the roof and holds as much as 6 barrels of rain. It's incredibly attractive, and it's used for exactly this kind of purpose, to infiltrate in areas where it's hard to infiltrate. So it's a suggestion. Gutters lead into it. You put plantings in it. So I suggest, Tony, you go look at it at the Wentworth Watershed Office.
Okay, thank you.
Betsy Booth, and I'm confused. Of course, we haven't seen the plans, but is this the building where Downtown Grill is?
Yes, it is.
I have been in an elevator to the 2nd floor, so I don't understand. I was totally confused.
That's the next building.
Oh, that's the next building.
That's the next building over. There is no elevator in downtown.
Oh, well, for me, putting another restaurant in Wolfeboro without handicap access would be a crime. Back Bay Boathouse doesn't even have a ramp to the 1st floor. I don't know how they got away with it, but it's just, you're living in a community of elderly and infirm people, and to have a restaurant that people can't access does not speak well for our town.
Right, I agree. Totally agree.
So we appreciate your comments, but as you can imagine, we're bound by the ADA laws.
So could we get something from our attorney on this legal access? I still believe we're supposed to be providing it myself.
Yeah.
Well, building permits trigger compliance with the ADA, and typically that's done through an architect reviewing the plan in coordination with the people that are in charge of that. That has been addressed for this project. If people want to question that, they can come look at the building file. I'm sure you could even set up an appointment to meet with Tony to go over how 4,000 square feet works. The planning board isn't looking at ADA access because the application in front of you is a deck.
Okay, any other members of the public? All right.
Kathy,
Yeah,
question. Tavis, a little while ago, you said that this deck is triggering, a site plan here for us to look at. That being said, does that also trigger, because we're looking at 26 seats out on that deck, the way Tony has it drawn in, close enough. And
I didn't catch that first part, Brad.
This being a site plan, I don't know if site plan review is the right word, but site plan's in front of us for a new deck, which has 26 seats on it. And his depiction on the plan that we have shows the tables with the seats on it on the new deck on the second story.
Fire code will dictate how many chairs actually go there.
Okay. Where I'm going at with this, though, is would this trigger us to take a look at, would it solid waste disposal all being 26 more seats, the garbage that triggers, to be disposed of, and the current problems that we're having there on that site with trash disposal now, with all the restaurants so close together in there, and the issues we're having with them being on the town property and all that stuff. So is that a question we can ask or address here?
I would suppose you could ask it. I don't know if that's known yet. I mean, I'm aware they have sorted out the plan on the adjacent property that we're not talking about that addresses solid waste. Building code requires them to address solid waste. Obviously, if there's a deck, currently all the trash cans for Downtown Grill are under the deck. So they either need to accommodate more under the deck or come up with a solution. I think the property owner or property owners, and definitely the site contractor, is well aware of the inability to use town property at this point, to the point where they don't like seeing town people around. They start looking around for what they need to move. You could address solid waste, but solid waste is generally covered by the fact that you have to accommodate your solid waste according to the state law for sanitation.
Because I thought some of these original plans that we talked about, screening and stuff like that, which I haven't seen any sign of down there yet, of that being done.
There was discussion of that on the adjoining property with the first floor deck, yes, because there were condensers and trash cans and walkways and things like that.
And now they're all under the Downtown Grill.
Correct.
But are they screened?
No.
They still put the deck on.
Well, this is one of the interesting things, because the original deck at Downtown Grill never came to this body. So it was very surprising for the current owner to have me say, well, no, it needs site plan review. I'm not sure how the first deck was approved. I just know it didn't get site plan review. So that's one of the reasons that screening probably wasn't addressed. I don't think it would be out of the scope of the board to say, we need to screen the stuff that's under the first floor deck. Because that was the requirement for the property next door.
Mm-hmm.
I also think we need to screen even new mechanical equipment. That's part of the architectural standard, especially in downtown. We need to hide, condensers, compressors, whatever you have.
So again, I think the board needs to work on the triggers for site plan review. If adding exterior equipment triggers site plan review, that's not very clear in the regulations right now.
Okay, the reason that the rooftop things came up, and I understand that all they need is a building permit, but the building permit, it seems, should be following our zoning regulations, which says they're supposed to be screened. And so that's why it came up. And I don't think that's, that's something, I don't know if you require screening when we're talking about rooftop. Our regulations say that we should.
I would have to look into the regulations to see where screening is required outside of site plan review regulations. I'm not saying screening's bad.
Yeah.
But I think the only reference to screening and buffering is in site plan review. Mm-hmm. So the trigger, I keep saying trigger, you have to engage site plan review in order to invoke those regulations. You don't get to say, it would be like imposing subdivision regulations on the site plan review. Unless they're subdividing, the subdivision regulations don't apply.
Okay, is everybody all set? Tavis, do you have some conditions for us to consider?
I just have.
Can I just, I have a couple of questions. I want to pick up on something that Tavis said. Am I correct that there'll be no materials stored on town property during the construction of this deck? There'll be no dumpster on town property during the construction of this deck?
This board doesn't have the ability to put that requirement on, but absent selectmen approval to do so, it would be an understood fact, yes.
Okay, well, I guess that's why
Well,
we
it
have
might
this
take me a while to think about
selectmen's.
how long it would take to approve this if there were materials to be stored on town property.
I think the board could put a condition on that, consistent with the law.
You can't use somebody else's property.
Can't use
for your
somebody else's-
building
right,
operation,
right.
Because obviously, as you know and I know, there have been problems there. And I would like to ensure they don't continue, particularly as it gets even busier down there, and even more people want to use the boat ramp, which for a while was blocked.
I would be careful in how that is worded, because this board doesn't have the ability to, the condition is to this property. You can't impose conditions that affect other properties.
I'm not imposing a condition on any property other than this, and as the construction takes place.
Correct.
Tavis, could you suggest the wording for a condition to include that would require the screening on the first floor deck?
Prior to issuance of a building permit, applicant shall submit a plan detail indicating how materials stored under the first floor deck be screened.
Thank you.
And accessed. You don't, are they accessing from the town's property to get under the deck, or are they accessing from their own property to get the stuff under the deck?
I don't think there's a way to access the property without I don't think there's a way into the building without coming from town property.
Yeah, you gotta hover.
So you're in the handicap spot accessing to
I'm
get
not
under
saying the
deck.
parking lot is laid out in the best way either.
I'm just telling you what the conditions of existing
Well, no, but
are.
I don't think that we can bar them access to town property.
Right. Yeah, they'd have to be able to access, from the town property, obviously, either from, state highway in front or the parking lot in back. I think where you're going, John, or what I have concern is that if they do screen and have access to underneath the deck through that handicap parking space, makes it problematic, because you're apt to have cars parked there in that space there when, the trash pickup people come to pick up there, they're not going to have access to it. So some thought should be put in that, okay, maybe we should have our access in the travel area of the parking lot, not through a parking space. Some thought needs to be put into that, just to how they do it. That's up to them, not up to us to, other than us saying that, you're not going to be able to go through a parking space to get access.
Yeah, it's not to say that a garbage can will never roll through the parking space, it just can't be stored there.
And perhaps if there's screening there and it's, for example, a hinged door, I would expect
It's
that
got to stay closed.
Or when it's opened, it should hinge into the property rather than out of the property.
Or to 180 degrees, or,
Yeah.
Or slide.
Or yes.
I did want to share something I know a little bit about, but not a lot of it about. They've actually bought a vehicle you might have seen. It's kind of like Paul Zimmerman's little tiny pickup truck. It's painted bright yellow to help manage the trash and bring it out to Brickyard Square where they can more easily, take care of it to try to keep the load down on that location. I don't know that much about the operation, but I think they're going to be cycling trash out, very frequently, from the site with that vehicle. So I just want to try to share that because the owner is trying to, in the end I got involved because the owner is trying to make things better around here. So, and he's trying to work on the trash thing too. So.
Can you tell him it's really cute? I've seen it.
Excuse me?
It's lime green and it's very
It is
cute.
lime green. It's easy to pick out. And it's not because of what it's been
Public
carrying.
hearing open.
Is
Yeah.
the board looking for
No,
100?
just a second, we're still in the public hearing. Yeah, come on up.
Thank you, Kathy. My name is Andrea Dudley, and I would just like to kind of reinforce that I think we really need to ask for screening of the first floor deck. I think it's really an embarrassment when people come into our dock area, and that's always been an issue, and it seems like this is the perfect time to leverage that. If they want more deck, and I'm not sure they really need that we need to keep piling people up on top of everything. But now is the time to say, okay, you want something, we need something too. Let's make it look attractive. I know it's a challenge, but they seem to be able to overcome other challenges. Let's have it happen. Thank you.
Right, okay, thanks. Okay, meanwhile, back at the conditions, did you have some conditions?
So I started with the three that are in the plan. Basically, the first one refers to the plan set as received. The second is applicant responsible for recording fees for the notice of decision, and all documentation becomes part of the binding part of the approval. The fourth one is requested by the board prior to issuance of a building permit for the second floor deck. Applicant shall submit a detail of screening for the materials stored under the first floor deck. My question is, what are you looking for? I'm not saying design it. Are you looking for, I can't even think of it, the crosshatch stuff?
Lattice work?
Lattice. Are you thinking slats? Are you looking for 100% opaque? Are you looking for, we want an invisibility cloak? I'm being quipped for a reason. What level of screening are we looking for?
I think ventilated screening would probably be best. Slats or lattice work would be nice.
And is this coming back to the board, or is this something that could be reviewed by a subset or staff?
Yeah, we could do that, but I agree. I mean, it needs to be screened. I think that's a really good idea, have it ventilated. And so if we could, say that that's a condition, and we'll deal with it if it's okay with the board when Doug and I can take a look at it, right, Doug?
It's fine.
Yeah,
Okay, prior to issuance of a building permit, applicant shall submit a detail for screening of materials stored under the first floor deck to satisfaction of chair and vice chair.
Okay, and the awnings, I think Steve had a good thought. If it could be, double something.
First floor awning shall be designed to drain to either side as opposed to the rear of the property.
Right.
I mean, that's an option. Or applicant shall verify the drip edge be on owner's property.
Well, definitely that one, but it would be preferred if it was not in the direction of the handicap spot. The change of direction or elimination of the lower awning.
Or look at the collection, I don't know, Ann, what to call. Yeah.
I mean, those do work very well. They're kind of pressed for square footage on the ground, but.
Yeah, looks like they have a foot maybe.
So applicant shall redesign first floor awning. Well, shall remove awning or redesign to drain to
shed to
north-south lines.
Right.
East-west.
Well, can I suggest rather than...
Well, the road goes north-south. Which is it, east-west?
It is east-west.
Tavis, can I suggest that instead of saying where it needs to drain, instead say where it shouldn't drain?
Not drain to rear property line.
Yes.
Okay, and if we could put in what Jane just mentioned and Ann Blodgett also stated, a good way to collect water, if that's something they could consider.
Okay. Can't say that.
Yep, they're gonna love it.
Okay.
I have written down what you said. It's up to you whether it's okay.
All right. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing now. And I'll make a motion to approve the awning that has been described on the property at 31 South Main Street.
Well, let's approve the deck.
Yes, well, I was...
Approve the project as submitted, yes.
The project that was submitted, right, which is... Yes.
Yeah, she hasn't said that yet tonight.
Okay, all right. Oh, okay, in that it meets the, all the requirements in the C1 district. We've taken into account the comments we heard from the public and planning board and suggested those as conditions for the applicant to consider. And
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, that's a motion, and it's been seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right, on to the next. Okay,
You're welcome, thank you.
thanks. Okay, EAC LLC and Sawyer LLC, 50 and 60 South Main Street, Hunters and Walgreen property for a boundary line adjustment in the C1 district, and that's the Hunters and Walgreen property, and 19 School Street. Hi, Randy.
Hi, guys. The Red Sox did win, but not that it matters. I came before the board, again, Randy Tatro, Norway Plains, for the applicant. Came before the board back in April to give you a quick review of the lot line adjustment, which is pretty straightforward. Can't hear it? I came before the board in April with the same lot line adjustment proposal on a preliminary. This is just a formal application for such. You're looking at the existing lot configuration. I'll turn it the other way too. Sawyer LLC owns the green and the blue lot designations, and EAC LLC owns the orange. Everybody kind of knows where that is now, I think, right? So all we're proposing under this lot line adjustment is not only a lot line adjustment, but a lot consolidation, as we discussed the first time, and that is the resulting configuration with EAC LLC with the orange and Sawyer LLC with the green. Two caveats to that are the orange gets 1,300 square feet. Yeah, 1,383 square feet added to it in this general area. And also, the proposal is for the existing building that's noted in yellow that would have to be removed as part of this lot line adjustment and lot consolidation to meet the regulations. That's it, pretty straightforward. Everybody knows it's in conjunction with the pending site plan review. What we wanted to do is come to tonight and get a formal approval of the lot line adjustment so that we could continue on with discussions on the site review, and there wouldn't be any worries about the fact that it encroached on a lot line or whatever.
Okay, and also you're scheduled to come back at the next meeting for...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
For, yes, right, okay.
So the
for-
building has to come down also because it's...
Yeah, because it would
violate...
violate the separation between buildings, John, on a proposed new building.
So the boundary line's not, none of this is going to happen if Hunter's isn't approved. So this is just getting the approval for this to happen, should the other piece work out.
Correct. You know, logically, if...
But you're making one lot and you have more than one structure on one lot. Can you still keep it there? Could he still keep the building there?
We're proposing the building to be removed.
I know you are, but,
Okay.
but he just said if it's not approved, then it's
If Hunter's...
If it's not approved, then it goes back to this.
Correct.
This configuration, and the lot's pre-existing on that lot, so it doesn't matter.
He's not going to record the plan and record the deeds if Hunter's isn't approved, so nothing changes.
Yeah, it stays the same.
The board isn't making the change, you're authorizing the change to happen.
Everybody
Yes, but-
clear on that? Okay, go ahead, John.
But when you authorize the change and you make a lot and you have more than one structure, you can have more than one structure on the lot?
Yeah,
In
there's
that
more.
district, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's more than one on there right now, John. This is the existing boundary right now. And I think what Tavis was saying was obviously they may not tear it down if it didn't go, you know. But this is the configuration that we're proposing, and because it's two separate lot owners, and we had this discussion before, they don't need a deed to themselves. I mean, they will need a deed. If it was the same owner, they wouldn't need it. So in this case, the planning board approved this configuration, and this entity would have to deed the yellow area, and the lot consolidation, once recorded, would be valid. We wouldn't need to come back for a merger or anything like that. So if the site review went forward, this would meet it.
And could you describe the reduction of parking spaces in front of Walgreens?
Yeah, and the parking spaces are going to stay, which we'll be able to show. Right now, it's just a lot line adjustment. And we're trying to keep, without getting into that aspect, Vaughn, we're trying to keep as many close vicinity parking spaces as we can and remain the same. And I think we just had to swap some out and move them in slightly.
And the boundary line adjustment is not affecting the parking easement between the two properties right now.
Right. And, yeah.
And you're proposing to put new parking in the back anyway? Maybe.
Not with the lot line adjustment, but yeah, Vaughn, that could happen.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then it looks like this application is complete. Somebody wants to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I can open the public hearing on this boundary line adjustment. If anybody wants to speak to the issue, now is the time to do that. Okay. Tavis, do you have some conditions for us to?
Some recommended standard conditions of approval. Applicant shall submit copies of draft deeds. Again, this came up at the last merger discussion, but because there are multiple properties and cross easements, I've even discussed this with Randy, there's no concern about doing that. It has to be done anyway, if they move forward with it. And then applicant should be responsible for placing all bounds, and applicant responsible for all recording fees.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. And I'll make a motion to approve the boundary line adjustment for these properties. And see, doesn't really make any difference what the size is because this is the C1 district. But they're consolidating 50 and 19 School Street will be one lot, and 60 South Main Street will be the next lot. No waivers were asked for or needed. The application was complete. The size of the building to be demolished has been discussed and will take place in the future. Neighbors were notified, and no concerns were expressed. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Randy. Yep, no, we're going to. I can't even find my.
I just sent out for pizza.
Okay, just one item under the discussion that I think, I mean, it's gotten kind of late, so I'd like to make the CIP appointments, the remaining ones for the Board of Selectmen. Linda Murray will sit on the Capital Improvement Program, and Bob Lohman from the Budget Committee, and Jim Pittman from the School District. And I'd like a motion to approve those to be on the CIP.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Seconded.
second. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, folks. Let's see, no, well, Ann, did you want to make a comment during public comments?
The last one here.
No? Okay.
Kathy,
And we're not doing any minutes.
just wondering if you wanted, the rules of procedure and the code of ethics were modified as discussed at the last meeting. If the board wants to consider this a first reading, then you don't actually have to read it. If there's any suggestions, though, now's the time to bring it up. Otherwise, you can move on to your second reading at the next meeting if you
Okay,
want.
all right.
I think
Okay,
we do want to do that, yes.
yes, we do.
What's that?
Yes, we do want to
Yeah.
consider this the first reading.
Yes, this is,
Okay, someone should say,
so I'll make a
to consider
motion that
this
this
the first
is the
reading.
first reading of the rules of procedure.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay, no.
And the code of
public-
ethics?
And the code of ethics?
And yes, right, and the code of ethics. Okay, and there are no minutes, and so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Let me just say
sorry.
something
Oh,
about
I'm sorry.
I ended up sending out
Yes.
something which
Master
went to
plan.
everybody about the master plan review. If you have
Can you use
questions,
the microphone?
I sent out something about the master plan review, and there are spreadsheets there. There was a Word document which ends up talking about what it says and how it says.
Thank you.
And we'll talk about that at the next meeting. And I would move that we adjourn.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, folks.